hit go live and it says initializing for like 2 fucking minutes. Okay, here we go. All right. Whew.
Just when you thought
There
it
it is.
was
Oh, now
dead.
we're like
The great Tony Todd, everybody.
Yes.
Tony, welcome to the show.
What's up, all the rabbit and red people?
Everybody's a suspect!
You're listening to Rabbit and Red.
Robert Shaw was a tough motherfucker.
Right.
They don't make that idea. He wanted to punch Richard Dreyfuss on the set he couldn't stand because he's a pussy.
Fuck you.
God damn you.
Welcome to Rabbit and Red Radio.
And I know that you like Jason Takes Manhattan, but my question to you is, why?
Okay, hey, Al. Okay, you're gonna tell me Halloween. You know what makes me mad about you, Mike? I'm gonna tell you one day. It makes me mad that Halloween 6 is your favorite movie. Like Jason Part 8, but you think Jason Part 8 sucks?
Yeah.
Are you joking?
Jason belongs in hell. I'm gonna see he gets there.
We have such sights to show you.
A boy's best friend is his mother.
And welcome back to Rabbit and Red Radio. You're saying people weren't clicking on and listening to my show to hear me talk? They just wanted to hear them? What fucking assholes, man?
No, and I'm guilty of that too, because I'll click on it and I'll be like, oh, fucking Ted Rigby's on this show.
The blackest eyes.
Welcome to Rabbit in Red Radio.
The devil's eyes.
This is a huge honor for me.
Uh-oh, too much pressure. I'm going to disappoint you now.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Where's the lunatic?
The Fog is a horrible, horrible fucking remake. It's fucking utterly disastrous.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass.
Okay, so
I
there
didn't
you
like
go.
the first.
I've been blown up!
We'll show those shitters what we can do.
Celebrating 15 years of Rabbit and Red Radio. Now here's your hosts, the King of Porntown and Michael J.
Producer Mike! There it is.
Yes, there it is.
Very nice. Konnichiwa, fuckers. It's Rabbit and Red Radio. I am that one weirdo, Theo, as always. And with me, I know you just heard it, but I have to do it live, loud and proud. With me, as always, is Producer Mike!
Oh, yes, that was loud. That was loud.
I never get
That
tired
was
of that.
loud.
I was going to say, that
No.
needle, that thing must, like, go bananas. That must be like some Spinal Tap shit.
It probably is. I don't have my levels up, so like I'm not looking at the levels right now, so I can't tell you. But I'll have to go back and post and check it out because I'm curious about myself. Sorry for the sun that is I mean like it.
That is straight up killing Nosferatu. Like that is like, that is insane.
It's like
hey, it's Mr. Naners. Naners.
You know what? Before we start, since Nanners is here, I do want to wish him a very speedy recovery. I don't know if you heard. Yeah, but he was shooting Circus Satanicus. I believe they had just started on location, and he fell and fractured his hip in 3 places. So, yeah, that's trust me, I feel your pain.
I've been very well. First things first, speedy recovery. I have shared his GoFundMe and his progress and everything. So definitely a speedy recovery. But
yes,
you know, I am so grateful to have not gotten to that point yet. And I think I will. I think we all do. But it is really unfortunate because I remember being an age where I heard a number of how old someone was, and I was like, fuck, they're old. Like, I hope I never get that fucking old. And then I'm at an age where, like, what do you mean you want to stick your finger in my asshole and, like, look for a polyp? Like, you lost your fucking mind? So it's really weird being the same age as old people. Like, I had to do... This is where his injury becomes my story. I'm sorry. I'm going off on a rant
No,
here.
No, go. Bring it. Take
But
it. We love it.
I might have mentioned it on the show before, where I got to do a home butt cancer test. And it is, okay, so first of all, it's not where I stick a hose up my own ass and then I pull it down periscope like boom. And basically what it is you take a shit on a little holder.
Okay.
And you take kind of a dipstick, if you will.
Oh
and
no, like you're changing your oil.
And you have to dip it in certain places.
Of the
and
shit.
then yes, and basically what they do is they go analyze it if you're high risk or they're finding things. Well, it came back fine, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a colonoscopy, and I told them, I said, look, if you find any change back there, I'll split it with you. But they didn't find anything except one polyp, and they went and lasered it. And I asked them afterwards, because I still had the anesthesia, I said, lie to me if you have to, but I would like to know, when you lasered it, do you go pew, pew, pew? Because that would be cool. But
I like it.
But I went back, and they were like, oh yeah, you we got your results back. You took the test and it came back fine. I said, yeah, but I'm a little upset with the VA. And they're like, why? I was like, because you didn't return my poop. I said, that's a part of me. I said, why would you do that? And they're like, are you serious? I'm like, what do you think? I'm like, doesn't that stuff come out of me for a reason? Like, why the fuck you think I want to, why would you think I want to keep it? Like, it's a joke. Oh,
God, I didn't want this. I didn't want this. I wanted something else.
That was pretty good, though. That one's okay. That one's okay.
I had I had the rim shot thing all lined up, and I hit the wrong fucking button. I am such an idiot tonight. I'm off my game. I'll get back to it. It's my brain is not functioning properly.
It's because you're blinded by the light.
Exactly. That's
oh,
kind
now
of
you fucking find it. What is this shit?
Yeah, there we go.
Can't work with this unprofessional shit.
I can't either, and I just realized that we're not live on Rumble right now. Do you know why?
Why?
Because stupid ass Rumble makes you input a stream key every time you go live on there, and my dumbass forgot to switch it from the last show that I aired on there last night. So we're not live on Rumble, so fear not. This will be on Rumble after we're over, but we're not live there now. So just watch us on Facebook, YouTube, or X.
Well, that's really insensitive of them. I mean, I'm sorry. That's very insensitive of them. I'm sorry. I don't know. I just fucking spitting shit out. I don't know.
Here we go.
Isn't that weird that it's like, yeah, you got to go through this passkey and shit, and just for an awkward giggle, like I'll listen to some people, and not everybody on Rumble is what you would think, but like some of the stuff, I'm like, holy fuck, you were the sperm cell that had the map to the cooch, right? You're the one that's like, guys, I know where Fallopian Tube City is. Let's go, boys. It's a little concerning. And don't get me wrong, I do some dumb shit stuff like the rest of us, but some of it is like, ooh, mama tried to drown you at an early age and the cop busted in at the last second, huh? Yeah, shit.
That's or they had cerebral palsy and lived. Oh wait, that's me. I'm sorry. Oh wait, no, you can't die from that. But there's different degrees. That's right. Oh wait, my brain's totally.
Is that like saying though that you can't die from insomnia, even though you can have things happen while you're suffering from insomnia that would kill you, like if you drove or something like that?
Really? Wait, when did this happen?
Well, I mean, not to me. No, but I mean, like if you're sleep deprived and you can't function properly, and then something happens to you.
If I'm sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Well, see, I don't know if have I been sleep? Yes, I'm
Which means you
probably
have.
every night. Well, yes, because see, all of my sleep, I don't know about you, but all of my sleep is broken. So
Yes.
I'll lay down sometimes at like 10 o'clock at night, and then I'll wake up at 1, and then I'll wake up at 3, and Cannon will be on, and then I'll wake up at 4, and Barnaby Jones will be on, and then I'll wake up at 5 for Dragnet, 6 for Adam 12, and then at 7 when
Adam 12, you
on
motherfucker.
top.
Oh my God, you watched Adam 12? God love you. What about Emergency?
Every night. Emergency's on at 10. I think they have it on at like 9:15 every night here, but I don't watch
Okay.
that every night. But Adam 12
Okay.
I watch every fucking morning.
Adam 12. Oh my God. Making me think of my
you know
dad.
what was on? You know what was on fucking I don't know if you've seen any episodes of that show, but there was an episode on yesterday morning where Jack Webb, the guy from Dragnet who created Adam 12, actually did narration over it.
He sure
Because
did.
the episode was called Elegy for a Pig, and it was about the death of a cop. And it was like so fucking weird.
When you
and
could
he's like,
say stuff like that.
yeah, and it's like at the end of the episode, he's like, "This has been Elegy for a Pig," and then it just ends, and I'm like, "Wow."
Different
like,
time. And they still played with like very important issues. It was just a matter of how they did. So Amy R, you are right. Technically, well, not technically, but you can die of insomnia. Because believe it or not, so what it does, from if I understand this right, the shock it does to the body, but also your brain has to rest along with your body.
I'm off on comments. Sorry, guys. I was focusing on
fucking unprofessional. What is this Mickey Mouse shit?
This is what I'm saying. This is the network. We are unprofessional Mickey Mouse pieces of shit.
But it's true. You can, like, long-term insomnia. Like, I've suffered insomnia for like 2-3 days, especially downrange. But like long-term, like if you do that shit for 10 days, yeah, get the coffin ready.
Ooh. I'm really curious. You know, now I want to do an experiment, and I think I should do a show. I don't want to call it a podcast because I'll call it a show, and it'll be how long can Michael J stay awake, and I'll just stay awake, and I will drink coffee, and I will drink water, and I will stay awake. How long could I do it? Do you think? Like realistically?
Well, you know, it's kind of creepy to do that. Well, number one, so Kevin Smith did that solo in celebration of the 4:30 movie. He went 4.5 hours by himself. And I love the fact that he didn't have real content. He did a lot of comments. Come on, brain. Maybe I have insomnia. It's very much one of those things where you can do it, and I love the thought that, you know, especially someone like him and certain, you know, podcasters and certain types, they can be that engaging for that long. And someone like him, like, I remember watching like Wake and Bake or listening to like Wake and Bake, and that was only 20 minutes. But this is literally a guy who's like drinking his coffee or his Celsius and sparking up a J and starting his morning. And that was literally, and it's fun because I'm a firm believer that, and I listened back to some of my own stuff and came to these conclusions where I am definitely different at certain times of the day. Like I've recorded stuff. Let's put it this way. So the very first podcast I ever did, Video Station, Christmas special on
that was the Die Hard one, right? Because
that was a Die Hard one.
Yes, I did hear that. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah. So to give you, and I think I told you, I think I said on this podcast, I was actually outside of an emergency room in Las Vegas.
Mhm.
My girlfriend, I'm not going to go too far into it. She had an ongoing issue, and she was like, we got to go. I said, okay. I had been drinking. I might have been elevated on a non-prescription pharmaceutical.
There we go. Okay.
And I literally recorded it, being in that state of mind, knowing, especially at the time, it was like, well, there's no good or bad time. That's the beauty of podcasting. It's the beauty of this medium, where it's like, if you're going to do it, do it. Like, you can make excuses up and down the walls. And there are times where it's easier said than done to pick up a mic and be like, okay, let's do this. But it is also a case of, if you're going to do it, do it. Like, just be there. Go for it. Do it. Another case was, I did Part-Time Gamers. And it was during Labor Day weekend. Let's say about 2 summers ago, give or take. Maybe 2 or 3. And we had hung out with a friend at Wendover. And he might have gotten a hold of some artificial sweetener that you don't put on food. It might have more of a nasal usage. And he left it behind for us as a goodwill gesture, because he had gotten drunk and he was a total pain in the ass. So his apology was, hey, I'm really sorry. Enjoy this artificial sweetener. Well, I enjoyed it very much. And everything was sweeter in a very artificial way. And then I went and did a podcast, and I listened back, and it's like, wow, that was really good. And then the other part of my brain is like, you're really fucking high. It's like, I mean, I was really sweetened. And that was the first time I decided to watch Ted Lasso, which I fucking adore. It is crazy how much in a comedy I cried that much, and I never would have expected. And it's from Bill Lawrence, who I adore. Of course, he did
Scrubs,
which will always be near and dear to my heart, and it's probably my favorite comedy of all time. But yeah, when you listen back, it's kind of like, I think anything you do long term or even short term, but like trajectories. I've talked about it here before, where it's like you go back and you're like, wow, what was I like? What was I like then? And I think in some ways that's almost like partners. Like, holy shit, how much did I hate myself to be banging that? But then again, that goes both ways, because they may look back at us and go, oh my God, where was I to be banging them?
I'm sure that there's been at least one person that said that about me. And at that point, I would probably say the same thing about them based on how that relationship went and ended. So
I had that with one. And afterwards, it was funny because she was honest, where she was like, it wasn't like you, but she was like, it was me. But she realized, she goes, you being kind of just a whatever kind of ne'er-do-well type of person, she was like, yeah, I knew you weren't going to settle down. And part of it for me is like, my life was so front loaded. Like, I was in the military for almost 2 decades. I had this life and I did these things before I even reached the point where, I found myself in a position, because usually it feels reversed, where it's like, okay, you go one way, you go to college and then you have your job, and then it's so after the fact. And that's part of probably the reason why when you're younger and you hear the age of like 50 or 55 and you're like, oh, fuck, you're old. And now it's the other way, where it's like people aren't even 50 and they're becoming grandparents and they're like, what the fuck? And it's like, yeah, because not everybody follows that anymore. And the squares and the fucking boomers, they didn't really care for that, because when they got self-righteous, when they went middle-aged, they were like, no, this is the way it's supposed to go. This is the no assholes. Like, just because everybody told you what to do and you became the generation after the greatest generation ever, as it's called. And yes, they did amazing things, but you literally had a generation that had a free ride and then went, oh fuck, now what do we do? And it's like, I got it. Let's just turn the tables. That whole, love and drugs and just freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't mean any of that. Abstain, just say no, and all that bullshit. So when it all became turned around, and especially now when you look at the ideal, when people still are like, how are you 25 and not had a kid? And it's like, well, because it's my fucking pussy. As much as somebody else is like, well, it's my fucking dick. But it used to literally mean like, and it was crazy to think. And it wasn't so much where I was raised. It was like when I got into the military, like I was very young. I was like still a kid in many ways. And I had 2 kids. And they turned out well, all things considered. But it's still very much a case of like, yeah, we didn't get all there. We did a lot of what everybody else fucking said to do. And then I'm happy to say I'm at an age where I can still appreciate them. Being that they're in their mid-20s, I just turned 50, so I can still enjoy them. Now, does it make me skittish, the idea that I could be a grandparent sooner than later? Yes and no. Because you know why? The ideal of being a grandparent in your golden years is like being a parent in your golden years, where it's like, yeah, the kids are cute, but I can't fucking pick them up. And the only reason why I relate to them is because we both babble and shit ourselves,
So wait, but you just said about, becoming a grandparent. So I have to ask, now that you brought that up, what would you want to be called? Would you go with grandpa, grandfather, grandpa Theo, grandpa one weird, you know what I mean? One weirdo.
Exalted king motherfucker. And they have to call me that. Exalted king motherfucker.
I would go for that. You not
I did something
a porn town then.
I did no, well, maybe when they get older. So I did something not that long ago that I prepared my daughter, because she's been married for a year now. Great guy, love him to pieces. Now he's great. He's wonderful. And I knew I was gonna like him right off the jump. He probably doesn't like me. Well, he probably doesn't like me, which is fine. I don't like me.
Do you need me to talk to him? Because I can get him to like you. I'll just talk to him.
No, he's great. I love when we get to spend time together. Very grateful for it. But they came down this way and we went to go grab sushi and stuff. And they ended up taxiing me around, which I was grateful for. But what was funny is I got in the back of their car and they were driving. And I said, okay. I said, so I'm going to conduct a little experiment because I love me some science. I said, I'm gonna do some science stuff. And they're like, what? I said, watch. I said, I'm gonna sit in the back seat and I am going to be your toddler simulator. I am gonna do all this shit in the back so you guys know what this is gonna be like. I'm gonna do all this stuff.
Yes, do a demonstration.
It was the best. Because I did it very intermittently. I made sure to keep them on their toes so they didn't see it coming. But I get in the back and be like, Mom, my tablet's not charged. You're a horrible human being. How do you give your kids none? Oh, that's the squirrel out the window. Can we eat him? And just the most random, like, I mean, if they have a kid like that, they should be worried and maybe medicate him, and medicate me too while we're at it. But literally one of those things where, I mean, just everything. I'm like, Mom, I want to watch. Did you see a movie coming out? How to Train Your Drag Queen? I want to watch How to Train Your Drag Queen. Yeah. Yeah. They got the rubles in it. No, RuPaul. Yeah. Can we go watch it? I heard it's a kids movie. And I was just like, Dad, you work too much. You don't see me because you don't like me. Why don't you throw the ball with me? Is that because you like hockey and it's not a ball? You only like pickleball. There's no pickles involved. That's stupid. You're a stupid head. You're not my real dad. just the most dumb. I mean.
So wait. So did they react like as a parent would, or did they just like look at you like you were insane and tell you to be quiet, or what did they do?
Oh, they were just laughing and like eye rolling, and they were like, "How are you?" They were like, "Dad, how am I supposed to take this seriously?" I said, "You should take this about as serious as a fucking heart attack, because trust me, you will love the little booger, but they will do that dumb shit." I said, "I promise you." Yeah, they will do. Yeah. They will. I said, remember too. And I said, because my kids did this big time, especially with me being military and just being me. Like, I would just say all kinds of shit, just like random and like just fucking out of my head. And it was hilarious because there were so many times where they would hear, like, they'll hear things but not know them. So they'll just say stuff. And then it's like, just all of a sudden it's like, Mom, I heard, and like I said, I was just back there just saying the most random shit. I was like, Mom, I heard there was a porno on the Pornhub. It was called the Golden Shower Girls. Can we watch it? Oh no, it's not on Disney Plus. Oh, my bad. And just.
So hold on a second. Is there really a porno called The Golden Shower Girls? Or
I don't know, but I'm afraid to look.
You know what? I'm gonna look it the fuck up right now because you fucking told me about it.
Fucking hell!
Now I need to hold on. Here's.
Oh, but I would mess with them, just random shit. I'd be like, I heard that you guys used to listen to stuff on a CD player. I got a CD player. CD's nuts. Just the most random shit that I could think of.
Oh my god!
Is there really?
Oh my god!
Fuck is wrong with you?
Oh my god! It's like this is a collection of. Oh wait, no.
No.
This says The Golden Shower Girls. It's
no! Stop it! You're a bad man.
I can't believe it. It's like a collection of golden shower videos, I think. I wonder if they're old. That would be weird. Now,
I think it's weird you looked that shit up on the fucking air.
I needed to see if it existed.
Needed? Really? That's what we're going with?
I'm just
needed.
I'll never watch it.
Needed. Like motherfuckers in hell need ice water. You needed to see it.
Well, you said it and it just popped in my head. I'm like, I know they make them, but like, I don't know.
I love some of those, like Lord of the Cock Rings, and
there are some that are called that. Yes, I remember.
Star Whores.
Well, that was. Now, see, I always thought Kevin Smith made that up. I didn't think that was necessarily real. But is it real? Do you know if it's real?
I don't know if it's real, but I mean, it would make sense if it was. But yeah. I had so much fun, like just back there, because I would be like back there. I'd be like, Mom, you took away my Need for Speed, and you took away the game. I liked in the beginning the menu. That song, from the windows to the walls, from the sweat inside my balls. I'll buy a U-Haul. Skeet, 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 motherfucker. Yeah.
Oh.
And they were just like, no, Dad, we were not like that. I'm like, you're right. You were worse. But I had so much fun doing that. I'd be like, Mom, I made up a song. You want to hear it? If you're happy and you know it, it's your meds. If you're happy and you know it, it's your meds. If you're happy and you know it, I peed my bed.
No, jeez. Amy's in on the clip though, like that, I guess. Oh, well, interesting. Oh boy, we're how far? We're 30 minutes in and it's already off the rails.
Off the rails.
I love it.
Like
Yes.
we've been, it's more like we've been doing some rails. But no, I wanted to like I just did some, like I said, I just did some weird shit just to, and the joke was just to kind of make them understand, like kids are just bonkers. Like,
yeah,
you know, they're like these little slimy demons that just are just icky and just everywhere, just blah.
Yeah.
And I loved being a parent. Like my kids were a hoot. They really were. And I'm glad they're older and I can appreciate them more now because I'm not traveling and deploying and stuff the way I used to, which I really enjoyed. I mean, even then, like I did, but you know, the regret sets in. Like I remember coming back from deployment and seeing them and it was so wonderful. But also there's that other side of me where it's like, shit, like, damn. Like, especially now. Like when my daughter got married, I was just like, where the fuck did time go? Like, where was I? And she was like, you were in Iraq. I'm like, yeah, because you needed diapers.
Man, I can't even imagine how you like it. That's just incredible that you even like did that because it's like I can't even imagine it, but you know.
It's kind of surreal, especially after the fact, because you don't want to struggle with regret, but then you almost can't help it because for so long you're kind of just you're almost numb to it. Like when you retire, it's like woohoo, finish line, and then you have to figure stuff out on your own. And the funny thing is that I'd get out and people were like, how do you not know how to do this? How do you not know how to do this? And it wasn't like I was inept. It was just, yeah, I never did that. And because a lot of it is you go to other parts of the world and you get a lot of stuff taken care of for you. There's other offices and other things to do this type of stuff. So when it comes to just certain aspects of like life, you never had to do it. You handed somebody a piece of paperwork and you went, there you go, done. That's it. Easy enough. It is very much a case of like being grounded very quickly and not in the easiest way. And it's very much a case of just trying to figure it all out, and especially having my aunt, and I could not be happier that she's married and who she married. He's wonderful. He's great. My my heart is filled with happiness with that, with his family, him. Like they're just so great, and he's great, and he's funny, and I love the fact that it didn't take long for him to realize my funny and him be funny. I know that, you know, I don't have pretenses. Like you can joke with me about things that others wouldn't joke about because I'm just me.
Right.
So, I like the fact that he's that comfortable with me. Some people would obviously say that's not right. Like he's your son-in-law. Like he should be fucking living in fear. And I'm like, no, I don't see it. I don't see it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I could see like if it was, you know, I mean, like if it was a situation where maybe like they were teenagers and you were just meeting them for the first time, then, you know, you live in fear. But then once you know the person, it's almost like there's nothing to fear. You know what I mean? Like, and he
Yeah.
knows that you're like cool and laid back. It's like there's nothing to fear at that point. So, you know.
Well, and especially when, right off the jump, part of it for me too was the fact that I knew, I should say, in no time flat that they were perfect for each other. And a lot of it was just seeing how they react to each other. You kind of get, from the outside looking in, you kind of see that stuff and you're like, oh, okay, well, they click. So I knew right off the jump they were going to get married. I didn't realize they were together as long as they were at first, and that their marriage, them getting together to be married, was going to be that quick. But lo and behold, and I couldn't be happier for them. But yeah, I did that little exercise because it was like, kids say all kinds of crazy shit because especially at certain ages, they're like sponges for the information. And I get that's why parents get concerned about like cell phones and tablets and stuff like that, because nowadays we have so much information where, I mean, I don't think they'll ever go anywhere, but it is not a huge surprise that movie theaters don't equate the way they used to.
Yeah, they definitely don't.
I was reading not too long ago. So Scorsese, and part of it is the fact that he's 82. Scorsese doesn't, and I found this kind of odd, and I kind of get where this goes, but I'm also like, but you're Scorsese. Like, do you have to go to a movie theater with people? Like, can't you just watch stuff? But he very much is against the ideal of watching movies with a theater crowd because it's not the space it used to be, thanks to cell phones and people being people now and people being rude and people playing on their phones during and people blankets. Like, theater crowds are not what they used to be. I think a lot of that was influenced by the pandemic. And I can't entirely blame him because there are times I go to the movies and it's like, I fortunately get a good crowd, I guess you could say. And then there's times I watch a movie and it's like, fuck, their parents should have fucking swallowed. Like, God damn it,
And again, I'm gonna, because okay, so Final Destination Bloodlines just came out. I know you saw it. I
Fuck
do
yeah.
want to see it eventually, and
Fuck
now
yeah.
I'll have the chance because I don't know if you saw this,
on
but
digital.
it's coming to digital Tuesday, and it's coming to disc on July 22nd already. So again, I say the movie landscape is changing to an extent where they're really just pushing things through a lot faster because that's Final Destination came out in May and it's already on disc less than 2 months before it, or maybe just over 2 months after it hits theaters. It's like, and I mean, maybe it's because movie theaters here or tickets here are so expensive, but it's like, I'm to the point where it's like, unless it's like a really big event movie like Superman, because
Yeah.
Superman, I think you do need to see in a theater. But if it's not that, then really I can just wait,
Yeah.
That's
Well, and it's funny because, well, one, audiences can be very fickle, but Hollywood doesn't catch on to trends as quick as they think they do or as much as they would like. And one thing that kind of stands out to me, and I want to see it, and the only reason why I haven't seen it is because it's 3 fucking hours, which doesn't feel, there used to be a time where 3 hours of a movie still felt long, but it felt doable. And I think now we just live in an age where there's so much that happens and so much that goes on, or at least it feels that way. We're not built for that anymore. So 3 hours for a movie just doesn't track, but it's Mission Impossible 8. And I think one of the biggest issues for me, and it's actually not doing very well, but also when you make a movie that expensive, you really got to find a way to get asses in seats. But one thing that happened along the way, especially with that film series, and I really enjoy some particular movies in that series, but one thing that happened along the way with that series is that the stunts from the crazy Scientology midget became the identity of the movie. And don't get me wrong, I love what the man does. I think that it is impressive. I think that it is a testament to him being an entertainer more than an actor, but definitely a movie star. But it is also a case of like, you have so much tied into these stunts, and it has become so overwhelming to where if you're a diehard fan, and I consider myself close to a diehard fan of the Mission Impossible movies, you kind of get away from it. Because like a perfect example is I love the first one because the first one plays like an old school kind of spy thriller where it was the Cold War or the end of the Cold War. And it was a time where technology and the whole cloak and dagger bag were kind of meeting, where we were starting to really see that technology was going to really start taking over our lives. You know, it was the mid 90s and we're really going to start, like CGI started coming into movies as far as, and it wasn't the first movie to obviously have CGI, but to have, you know, just a couple years before that, we had Jurassic Park. So we were starting to see that technology was going to have a huge shift. And they played with that a bit in the first one. And I love the fact that it was still kind of a spy versus spy. Like there was still the kind of cloak and dagger side. And then you fast forward, you know, close to 30 years. And now that technology side is the whole plot point. But now it's, oh no, there's nukes again. Oh no, there's this. Oh no, there's that. And fundamentally, they're trying to make very key points about, I guess you could say, you know, where technology will take us, you know, like AI and misinformation and stuff like that. And it's not just misinformation, it's what misinformation does to us. Like, I don't know about you, but I can barely trust anything I'm told at this point.
I agree.
And I've actually gotten past the paranoia to where it's like, okay, then I'll know when I need to know. Not so much the case of, oh, well, this is the news. It's like, no, what's the story? I don't need the sensational side. I want to know what happened. I don't need it set a certain way for me. I don't need the story told in a certain fashion. And I love the fact that it plays with that, but also there is so much tied in to the marketing with him hanging on to that biplane and stuff like that. And that's all hunky-dory, but that is not the movie. And they play so much ads of him hanging on that fucking plane. Like when they did the New York premiere, they actually had one of the biplanes and he stood on it. And it's like, oh, so that's how you feel tall, huh there, Tommy? And don't get me wrong, the fact the man is 62 and he has more abs than, you know, half the population in this country. That's to his credit, but also it's like, you know, Is this a movie? Is this a coherent story? Or is this just another case of the Tom Cruise Stunt Spectacular, sponsored to you by Patriot Cigarettes, also sponsored to you by Red, White, and Blue Turpentine?
Mm-hmm. And oh, you know what? I think. Are you ready to be amazed?
Nah. Yo, go for it. What's up?
Yeah. All right. I have only. All right. Here we go. There we go. I have only seen the first 2 Mission Impossibles.
Oh, cool.
Well,
it's well, and here's the thing.
The rest, I just haven't.
Well, here's what's funny about. Okay, so the first movie I really love.
Yeah, I do too.
Naders, we'll see you later. Take it easy, brother.
Yes, take it easy.
The first movie plays like a Cloak and Dagger. It plays a little bit like Hitchcock because it's directed by Brian De Palma. And when I found out he directed it, I was even like, "Oh my god, did you were you late on car payments or something?"
Yeah, Mission Impossible doesn't seem like a De Palma type film, but that first one was really good. I like that a lot.
Well, the direction he went was very De Palma, but also once again he was playing kind of the Cloak and Dagger. You know,
Right.
like he still wanted a spy movie. Wasn't so much. I mean, because it has action, but it's not like the crazy action that we've come to know that's associated with a lot of these movies. And you know, it was very much one way. And then we had such a huge shift because it was like 4 years later. And then, you know, over time, it didn't happen right away, but over time, MTV started becoming a big part of marketing for movies. You know, they started seeing a bit of the younger crowd, a bit of a generational shift. And what they did is, you know, especially Paramount Pictures, because Paramount Pictures and MTV was a subsidiary, if you will. So it was very much a case of like, oh, we can use this as another way to push and market this shit. Like this is another thing. That's great. We could do that. So the second movie was directed by John Woo. Now, with the exception of Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder, if you want to talk about a separation from point to point from 2 different movies, not in the same movie like Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon, if you want to talk a huge separation and such a massive difference between the 2 points between 2 filmmakers, I'm going to go with Brian De Palma and John Woo.
I mean, see, but here's now, you may disagree, but for whatever reason, and it's been a while since I've actually seen them, but I remember actually liking 2 a shade more than 1, and I don't know if I'm in the minority or, you know, if a lot of people were, I can't remember back if that's how it went.
2 was a product of that MTV generation. It had a soundtrack that was like very much of the time. Limp Bizkit, White Zombie. The marketing turned the way it did, so much so that the original director for that movie, because it was supposed to be closer to like a Cloak and Dagger, was Oliver Stone.
For me, now, see, that is something that I cannot see. I cannot see Oliver Stone doing Mission Impossible. There's just
I could see it, but talk about a completely different movie.
It would be.
And then and then you have a jump, and I think it was like a 7-year difference, 6 or 7, between the second movie and the third movie. And then you have another directing change-up. And this one was like another weird case. And I think that's what was so almost kind of jarring about them was, and don't get me wrong, when you look at like James Bond or like Kingsman, well, Kingsman had what's his name? Matthew Vaughn. But when you look at like James Bond, they always had different directors. But they weren't too far outside of the last one. And they didn't necessarily run together. And that was mostly because of the Broccoli's, the producers, Eon Productions.
Right.
So you fast forward and you get J.J. Abrams. And part of that was because they looked at David Fincher at one point to direct the third one. And they were very close. Like that's another one where I'm like, how do you let him walk out the door?
Yeah, no, he's somebody that they should have like pursued and just really did whatever they had to do to make that happen, I think.
But he's not, I don't know, maybe he's changed, but he is not an easy man to be directed by, or at least he wasn't. And I mean, he doesn't just make movies, like he crafts movies. The way that man puts movies together, it's almost criminal to think like what he does. The man's never won an Oscar, and everybody knows you're going to get such a specific look. That's why when you hear about the possibility of like him making big blockbuster movies, and he's made some fairly big budgeted movies, but at one point he was looked at for like Spider-Man and, looked at for like hero movies. And it's not that he didn't want to do them. It's that he had such a specific vision that it wasn't a case of like, it's almost like Kubrick, where it's like, oh, well, maybe we can play with this later, or maybe we can play with that. It was like, no. This is what we're doing. I think, especially when you're talking about like big blockbusters, because you're like $200 million movies and, studio execs and a lot of money and product tie-ins. And it's like, yeah, you want good, capable storytellers and filmmakers, but auteurs, people who want final cut, people who are very much in a space where it's like, this is what we're doing, not, hey, we want your name on the poster and we want your name in the credits, but, do you think we can tweak this? Do you think we can? And it's like, no. And Fincher is such a calculated craftsman, and it's obvious. And it's one of those things, it's like, you have to bring your A game. That's why with some directors, when I see some of the movies they do, and then they work with certain filmmakers, and it's like, how, like Brad Pitt, I look at movies like Bullet Train, which are just fun and ridiculous, and I enjoy that movie a great deal. And then he works with somebody like Fincher like multiple times, and it's like, you must know how to work with the man.
Yeah.
Or something, because he seems like such a perfectionist, and there's been horror stories about people not really care for working with him, but everybody has their own style. Like, there are some directors who like to go by the script and then maybe play with stuff later, or there are some like Paul Fig, who did Spy and Bridesmaids and A Simple Favor, who they'll play with a lot of the script pieces. Like they'll, call stuff out, like say this or try this or stuff like that. And there are some directors that are like, no, let's do the script first, and then maybe if you want to play with stuff later. And to watch him do it is hilarious, because I was watching some behind the scenes stuff like bloopers, and he loves to throw out random shit, and the actors are like, what? What am I saying? And there was one with like Statham, and Statham is like actually very funny. And I think the man has amazing timing. And he had like this crazy line, and Statham was like, "Can I?" And wasn't even a script supervisor. Like the director comes up to him, and they're reading this together, and they're just dying laughing. And Statham is like, "Who comes up with like what?" He's like, "What do you guys do back there behind the cameras? Like, what are you doing?" And everybody has their kind of process. That's why when certain directors do certain jobs, I'm like, how did they get? There are some. It's like I get why that didn't happen. Like with Jurassic Park, that was almost James Cameron, and I think he was going to stick a lot closer to the book, and that wasn't going to be very. I mean, I still think it would have been pretty awesome, but I also know that it wouldn't have been very family friendly because the book's not family friendly. Like, I mean, you look at it like a classic. I mean, that movie just made 32 years anniversary.
I know.
But it's crazy to think like certain filmmakers were going to take it on, and you were like, wait, Cameron literally said he would have made something closer to Aliens with dinosaurs. And oddly enough, that's actually more fitting of the book than what we got from Spielberg. It's not spot on, mind you, but it's closer to the book.
Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, I'm curious. Like, I kind of want to see that now. I mean, look, I haven't seen anything past Jurassic Park 3, so I haven't seen this new trilogy.
You haven't seen the Jurassic Worlds?
No, but I have a feeling, and well, look, I think Cameron's vision would have been better than that trilogy from what I've heard of that trilogy. So is it bad? Because I heard that aside from the fourth one, the fifth and sixth are kind of, except for Goldblum 5.
So here's how I'll break down, and I'm actually looking forward to the new one, not just because it has Scarlett Johansson sweaty on a beach in Thailand. Because when I saw,
she's in that.
Oh yeah. Well, when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, who has been reading my fan fiction again? Like, what is this? Like, I dreamt it. I wrote it down. Here we are. The kick. So the kicker with the Jurassic World movies,
right,
is now. I think the key issue with the whole Jurassic Park IP, like many IPs, is that it became an IP. In the case of Jurassic Park, it is always a case of, okay, how do we get them on the island? How do we get the dinosaurs? How do we get this? And as a moviegoer, if you're doing it right, the frustration shouldn't be there. Because in the case of Jurassic World, the first one, all the boxes are checked because they did the one thing, and this is probably why I like it, even though it's got some shortcomings. They did the one thing that it just made sense as far as like, if you were going to pick up 15 years later from Jurassic Park 3.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're like 13, 14 years apart. If you were going to do that, it literally made sense to go only one direction. And it was literally the case of just make the park happen. Like, I mean, it's funny how it took that long, and it probably went through several iterations. But it was very much a case of just, you might as well take this to the eventual point. Because the whole point was, sooner or later, this is going to happen. Just a question of when. So, like I said, I actually enjoyed Jurassic World because it literally does. And part of the cute thing is that, you know how in the first one they made fun of like the whole theme park experience?
Mhm.
Well, the irony is not lost on the folks who did this fourth movie, if you will, because it is very much a case of like, oh yeah, if this thing was real, we would have, you know, every major brand under the sun, because that park literally has Margaritaville, Starbucks, Beats.
Oh shit.
You name it. Yeah, like on the park itself, you know, you literally have every corporate shill company, you know, changing dollars with them, which we all know would happen. That's, you know, and then it's an island on itself, so it's a resort. And then they have like 20,000 people in this thing. So it's like a major, think about it. It's like a zoo,
Mhm.
an amusement park, and a resort all combined into one, which is not too dissimilar from most major amusement parks. However, the dinosaurs is the difference. But from a screenwriting standpoint, or at least in the case of the story goes, that was the easiest place for them to go to kind of bring, you know, bring Jurassic Park or Jurassic World to life. It was just made sense on paper. I mean, because it was literally a case of like, how many times are you going to come up with reasons? And then the fifth one, I guess this is the best.
Goldblum in that one?
Goldblum is in that one for about a minute and a half.
Oh, you know what? Oh, so okay. One of the former Rabbit and Red hosts, before we started this show, had told me with the new trilogy that I should watch the fourth one, but skip 5 and 6. And he's never seen 6, but he said 5 was But he told me Goldblum's in 5. So when he told me Goldblum was in 5, I was like, wow. Now because he's in it, I'll watch it because I love Goldblum. But now that you're saying he's only in it for like a minute and a half, that's a very big tease. I don't know if I enjoy that very much.
Okay, so let me get this part out of the way.
Yes.
And I take it you won't mind, but I'm going to go spoilerific.
Please, I do not mind because I will still watch it, I'm sure, based on what you say.
Jurassic Park 5.
Yes.
Or Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is one of the dumbest fucking movies I have ever seen. It is.
That's why now
it is the encompass. It is the full encompassment of what I just said about the stupidity of trying to find a way to get these assholes, these people back on the island over and over again. So now, huh?
Why do they bring him in for a minute and a half? That seems like you're wasting Goldblum. I don't.
Okay, I will get to that.
Yes.
So so the movie kicks off about 3 years after the debacle with Jurassic World, which they've evacuated the island. The island's been dormant. You know, everything that was is gone. Now, there's going to be a volcano that's going to erupt. Sure. Like seismologists didn't look at this thing, but okay, I mean, sure, nature. Now, Goldblum plays a small part in the beginning and a small part at the end. And basically what it is that there is all these hearings about whether or not the U.S. should get involved because, and this is where you might roll your eyes. The question comes about as to whether or not these dinosaurs should be saved. if they should be protected like other endangered species.
Wow.
That is, oh my God. And believe it or not, that's not the dumbest part of the movie. So first of all, somebody I was seeing at the time, she saw it and she adored it, and she liked the message. And I get, if you buy into that message part of it, if you enjoy that, if you will, you're good. You're gonna be cool with it. But I remember watching it and going, okay. Like all movies hit people differently. But the very thing it tries to do is, actually I should say the two things it tries to do is A, trying to make you feel sympathetic towards the dinosaurs, which you do, but you also know they're not a typical endangered species. This is something we played around with and we brought them back.
Right.
And they're not endangered in the truest sense because they should have never been brought back. Like, that was kind of the problem. You know, that was always the case, where it's like, okay, it's great that you can do that, but you know, you didn't make one and maybe study it and study what the science can do to maybe save other people, like regrow limbs or organs. You went and made an amusement park, and that was kind of the joke. Like, when Michael Crichton found out that, I think it was IBM, they were actually able to get rights of like endangered species or something. Like, the whole thing was meant to kind of be a spin on what corporations can do when they get when they have enough money to be able to control like DNA. And it's like, yeah, there's companies out there that would make shit and not care about the consequences. Like, we get that point. Absolutely. But Dallas, Bryce Howard's character, you know, she's kind of the villain, especially of the first one, because she didn't evacuate the park in a timely manner. She got a lot of people killed or injured. They paid like massive class action lawsuits. It almost tanked the company, if not for like the research. And she's now trying to save these things, and it's meant to be this redemption arc. And she's not held accountable. She didn't go to jail. She didn't get, she didn't get financially wiped out. She didn't become a pariah, to any industry. She's now working like an advocate for the dinosaurs. And it's like, lady, you literally ran an amusement park and you were exploitive to these things. And you didn't earn your redemption because you never learned your lesson. You didn't go to jail. You didn't actually get injured. You didn't look at these people and realize the mistake you made by not handling this the way you were supposed to. And then on top of that, they find out that Blue, the raptor that Owen, one of the ones that he trained with his fucking, force hand bullshit.
Oh, like the...
yeah, it's fucking magic.
Mm-hmm.
When he fucking finds out that Blue was able to show empathy because he imprinted on them. So now you're kind of retconning all these things. Oh, wait, it gets worse.
Well, all right. So so let me get this straight. So it just sorry to interrupt you. I just have to get this straight in my brain.
Okay.
So at the end of Jurassic World, somebody turns a neuralizer on the audience and just zaps them so they forget everything that they just watched. And then when the fifth one comes out, there like, oh, Bryce Dallas, how you're a nice woman now, and you're McDowell in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, who's trying to has his turn from asshole into good person. So now you're asshole into savior as well. Wow.
Yeah.
That's. I mean.
Oh no!
okay.
It
So
gets.
yeah.
It gets worse. Believe it or not.
I can't. It doesn't seem like it possibly could.
and yet, so I actually rewatched this the other day just so I could get a laugh, because it's so ridiculous. Like, you could tell there must have been like script issues, or like they were trying to figure out where to go with it. Because one theme they seem to keep coming back to, like they can't help themselves, is that yes, I get that the amusement park, the theme park, was meant to kind of look at what we can do. But everybody wants to weaponize these things. And it's like, okay, I get the gag. You want to take something out of context, and it's just another way of wielding it. Well, let's be clear about this, though. Nobody's really going for that, because we all realize you can't control it. So the more you want to fucking tell people you're going to get to control it, like as an audience, like in the moment, maybe like on the first viewing, we're like, oh, but then we're like, the fuck? So we find out that Hammond didn't have, so he had a partner, but it was a silent partner. Okay. So we're retconning people in, of course.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But yeah, we're retconning people. So he has a granddaughter. Okay.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, this gets good.
Oh, I can already tell. You bring in granddaughter here. It's. Oh boy.
So the company that still hung on to what was left of InGen, they wanted to help save the dinosaurs, or so they say. And you can tell from like 10 feet away, it's like, okay, this one guy, he's all sketch, but nobody in the audience is buying it. Everybody's like, yeah, we know, dude, you're right. You're fucking full of shit. Excuse me. So sorry, this movie, when I say this shit out loud, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love some fucking stupid ass movies, but yeah, this movie's dumb. So they get Chris Pratt back and all that, and it's like, hey, don't you want to get Blue? And at first he's like, no, but then of course he goes with them because otherwise you wouldn't have a movie. So they go to capture Blue, and they go to get all these dinosaurs so they can sell them to all these arms dealers. Yep, I said that out loud.
I mean, that's
yes.
But
oh no, this gets better.
Oh boy.
So they have an auction. Now, keep in mind, there was one island, and there was another island next to it. But instead of going to the island next to it for their little auction,
right,
they go all the way to California from Costa Rica. Okay. So they're in the middle of like trying to move. Yes.
Wow.
For some ungodly reason, they traversed all this to go all the way there.
Horrible.
And it was very much a case of like, oh, okay, that made sense to you. Sure. But
so it's a road movie.
It's
on top of everything else. It's like a road trip movie on top of everything else because they're going to California, or they just get to California somehow.
Well, they sneak onto the boat that's going on in California. They escape the island. They escape the volcano because the volcano erupts because it's supposed to. It's a ticking time clock narrative where we didn't need one because we know the volcano. It's one of those things. It's like the script, the movie sets up so much stuff to just have a movie. And we know that's how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And they start auctioning these things off, but they genetically made a dinosaur again. But this is where you laugh your ass off. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
For some reason, I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
They created this dinosaur to be laser guided.
What?
They have a device, kind of like a laser guided missile, and you turn it on, and it's got a high pitched frequency, and you point it at the person, and that's where you get the dinosaur to go. I can't even make this shit up. Now, I get how on paper that might sound cool.
I don't even think it sounds cool on paper. I want to write it down and look at it, and I'll tell you it does not sound cool.
Oh, and in the middle of the auction, they bring this thing out as a prototype, but then people bid on it. But remember, it's a prototype, so why the hell did they bring it out?
I mean, yeah,
Oh, this gets even better. And I haven't even got to the daughter part yet, or the granddaughter part.
Kathleen Kennedy is not... She's still with Disney. She wasn't involved with Amblin or this or that at the time.
I don't
right?
know. She might not. She might have been a part of it on her way out. I'm not sure. But get this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Ted Levine is in it, who I adore, but he needed a paycheck. He plays kind of the big white hunter, which they have in a lot of these movies.
Right.
Okay. And he collects teeth from all his captures. Okay.
Ah.
So the Endoraptor, he put down. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it has something in it which I think is like oddly cool, but it's like that just fucking happened. Right. So he goes, and obviously he's stupid enough to do this. Mm-hmm. He goes to yank the tooth out of this thing. The genetic dinosaur, which is called the Endoraptor, looks at the fucking so the dinosaur is kind of pointed this way in the shot.
Mm-hmm.
He opens his eyes and for a split second looks at the audience and grins. And you're like,
I'm
okay. Okay. Like, oh, wait. I still haven't gotten to the, because remember, they have these dinosaurs.
Right.
And they're now on the mainland. They're in California.
Okay.
So
yeah.
The granddaughter is actually not his granddaughter.
Jurassic Park. Oh my God.
He's not. He is. Okay, so the granddaughter is not her granddaughter. The daughter who died, who you think gave birth to his granddaughter, he basically cloned his daughter.
So it's multiplicity on top of all.
Yes. And in the 6th movie, we find out how she cloned herself was the daughter who had the genetics disease she died of actually inseminated herself with her clone embryo so she could basically give birth to a version of herself. This is the same studio. This is the same studio that made Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
I love Halloween 3, but I had to play that because So okay, all right. Now I never. All right, so as far as I'm concerned, there's Jurassic Park 1, 2, and 3. There's Jurassic World, and then there's this one. And because
5
Opera
and 6
10,
are weird.
I don't think I want to. I've decided. I don't think I want to go down that rabbit hole because I'll never come back, or I won't come back the same. It will change me.
5 and 6 kind of remind me of 2 and 3 from the first. They are very much movies that are like, okay, so we got a hit on our hands. What do we do next? And part of the issue at play is, you know, it's not even about getting a cohesive script. It's in some cases, it's very much like trying to get all this stuff to kind of work together. And what's very unfortunate about a lot of this stuff is just like they don't even look at like continuations and I know it would never work. I know people wouldn't do it. I know Universal wouldn't do it for something like Jurassic Park. But there's a movie called Godzilla Shin, which is fantastic.
Yes.
And it looks at the flip side of Godzilla, not the necessarily him, you know, destroying everything. It was very much a case of where they went, okay, we know all that. We got that. What they decided to look at was like the bureaucracy of what does it take to bring this thing down, and what happens when people just don't fucking get along. And it's brilliant because it's not centered around Godzilla. It's centered around all these kind of civil servants and these people who are like, you know, it kind of goes through like the red tape, like the human kind of bullshit if you were taking on Godzilla. And by that stretch, it's brilliant, but it's like fucking weird where it's like, because you have that moment of like, wow, somebody thought of this. Like, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I dug it. I was very much one of those, like, I didn't expect to be what it was. But once again, and this new one coming out, Rebirth, which comes out right before 4th of July, it's very much a case of, oh, now we got to get you back to these dinosaurs. And the thing is, too, is that, you know, bringing dinosaurs into the real world was always going to be something they were going to try.
Right.
But I always felt, I like, you know, there's always kind of different avenues. Like, you know, in 3, you know, they kidnap Alan Grant and then Billy, his kind of student. And it's like, why do you have to do a pomp and circumstance? I would have loved to seen it from the perspective of if you dumped him on there to do something, and then lo and behold, he was never on that island, which was kind of the turn on Jurassic Park 3, where they kidnap him to do something, and he's like, I've never been here. Like, you want me to track on an island I've never fucking seen? Like, I don't know what's here. Like, you've definitely got the wrong guy. And especially the case of trying to, you know, keep bringing stuff into the real world. What if you had a movie about if you never saw it coming? Like, all of a sudden, like, just some fucking, you know, T-Rex went down the middle of fucking LA or something. And it was like, wait, they're not supposed to be here. And it's like, okay, but they are. Now what?
Right.
As opposed to a whole, because they end up releasing the dinosaurs at the end of 5, and it makes no sense because in 6, because there was maybe like 20 dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. And then some of the dinosaurs that were released were not as the same dinosaurs that were in, like, the ones that were in the 6th movie And the ones that were in the 5th movie are not the same dinosaurs. And then the 6th one, they make it sound like there's dinosaurs everywhere. And it's literally breeds that should not exist. And it's like, well, how the fuck did that show up? And then the 6th movie has an ending that really doesn't make any sense at all.
So you kind of wonder, well, so this one, it seems like is going to just start fresh, because it seems like 6 kind of like took it to a point where, okay, like, where do we go, or how, or this is just the definitive end point.
Well,
that's what it seems like. I don't know.
If these things keep making money, it's the curse of success. Like, you're going to keep making them until nobody's watching them. And even if it's 2 people watching them, they're going to go back to, oh shit, people are watching them.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're very much in a space of trying to, disseminate, like, okay, what's this one about? Like, oh, another one? Because I remember when they were talking about it, because, like, perfect example is, we just had Dominion, and that wasn't even 2 years ago. And then last summer, they had released that they were going to have one this summer, which they are going to. But they had just started casting. ScarJo had been wanting to be a part of this franchise for a minute. She finally got her wish. But this one seemed kind of cobbled together, I guess, if you will. And I remember that David Leitch was supposed to, they were trying to get him to direct at one point, and he bought out. And then Garth Edwards, who did like Godzilla, and then he also did Rogue One, and The Creator, which I adore. The Creator, that fucking movie's amazing in my book. That they got him to do it, and I'm looking forward to what he's going to do with it. But in a lot of cases, to kind of restart a franchise that you never really stopped, like even the break in between Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World, there was never a question we were going to get another movie. It was just a question of when and what the approach was going to be. And the approach for me, at least for Jurassic World, was like, well, yeah, where else were you going to go? Mm-hmm. Like, I never expected they were going to go in another direction.
Right.
So I had kind of hoped that the trilogy was going to be based around the park. They were going to find a way. Obviously, that'd be easier said than done, but if they could find a way to make it all happen on the park, that would have been kind of cool.
Right.
Because by the time you get to like 5, that piece of dog shit, and then 6, you're just cramming all this stuff together, especially in 6, because you get Sam Neill, Goldblum, and Laura Dern back together.
In 6?
Yeah, you get the original trio back together.
So now, is he in more of 6 than he was 5?
Oh, big time, yes.
Damn it! Now you're gonna make me want to watch 6, because I like Goldblum.
6 isn't horrible, but 6. Okay, I can tolerate 6 better than 5, and the reason for that huh?
What should I do? Should I skip 5 and just go to 6? Or should I watch Goldblum's minute and a half in 5 and then just go to 6? Like, what do you think I should do here?
I think you should watch 5, not just because they're in that order.
Mm-hmm.
I think 5 makes you appreciate some of the other movies. And the thing is, too, is that the director who did 5, you can tell, has a massive boner for Spielberg.
Right. Okay.
Like there's a lot of visuals that feel very in line with Spielberg. And they're nice odes. Like, I'm like, okay, like he he likes those cues. Like you could tell he's playing in those areas a bit, which is nice. But also the script is just nonsensical because they're just clobbering shit together to kind of get to an endpoint. And that endpoint is getting the dinosaurs on the mainland so that they become a global issue. And it doesn't even make sense how they got out of California. Because there's only like 20 of them, and they're not even the same species that are all there. And all of a sudden, it's like, why is this an issue? Like even the fact that they did get out, it's like, why is this a fucking issue?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now for the next one this week, I'm gonna have to sit down and watch 4, 5, and 6. And
5 had a potential based of where it was. And I know, I'm gonna say it because everybody says it, whether or not they mean to say it, but I'm gonna say it.
Mm-hmm.
It is obvious that, especially this one, Fallen Kingdom, was meant to be the Empire Strikes Back of this kind of trilogy. It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious that was supposed to be the case.
I mean, I'm curious. Like at this point, I think I am curious enough to actually, watch them, because it's just. I mean, I don't know. I've come to the realization of something over the last few weeks, that I really do enjoy watching movies. And it's actually been over the last week because I actually started watching movies, because I'm sure I hardly watch anything anymore unless it's Halloween related for the millionth time. So I watched Nope last Saturday on Peacock.
Was that your first time watching it?
Yes, it was.
Oh my God.
Now, here's the issue with me and Jordan Peele. Well, not really an issue. It's just, okay. So Get Out, I liked. I thought it was a really good film. Us, for whatever reason, it just didn't stick with me. So I was like, and then like Nope, like the trailers, I was like, nope. And I was just like, I don't think so. So, but again, I was told that I should give Nope a chance because it showcases Jordan Peele's like talents and really like shows him as a a decent filmmaker. So I watched it, and I was kind of surprised. For me, it was definitely better than Us, and I do think that it was probably above Get Out too on some level.
Right.
So, I mean, it really, like I really did enjoy it. Like it was, I didn't pick up my phone once during the movie. I put it off to the side. I'm like, I'm not touching you. You're here, I'm here, and that's it. And it was like I was just immersed in that whole 2 hours and 10 minutes. I was like, yes, this is like just a good movie going experience.
Yeah. I love, he has so many great odes to horror and what he loves about horror, especially in this one. And I gotta say, and of course, spoilers abound. Especially for me, so first of all, I think Daniel Kaluuya is such a phenomenal actor. And it was funny, before Get Out, he was actually going to give up acting for a while. And Jordan Peele was the one that was like, he pulled him up by his bootstraps and got him back into it, which is to all of our fortunate credit, if you will. And I love that scene in the barn where, you talk about like a perfectly paced scene that plays so well. I mean, especially from somebody who you can tell loves horror and executes it so well, like you're just like, holy shit, like, damn, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, that was one of those things. I mean, I love the movie as a whole, but that particular scene was like, I mean, just well played, well shot, just structured well. And it's one of those you have to wonder, like, okay, like in the back of their mind, did he know how to execute this? Or was it like shot it and in the editing room, it was like, oh, okay, I got something good here. Like, how do I click all this together? So, yeah, I really like that one. That, I mean, as much as I love Get Out, I like Us a lot, but I love.
Maybe I should give it another shot because I only watched it that one time, and I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't feeling it. I don't know. Maybe I should, try it again.
That one's very unique, and a lot of that is because it is not. How do I put it? I mean, all of his have very long-reaching kind of allegory.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one was the biggest one, and some of the stuff is brilliantly put together, but that one in particularly like raises a lot of questions. Like it's like it really plays, that one particularly plays like an extremely well done kind of Twilight Zone, which obviously, I mean, it's very obvious he's a huge fan of. But that one plays a lot into, because for some reason that one you can't help but to play the practical. There's something about it because he does things so wellly grounded. You're like, well, if it's an underground group and all these people are copies, like, how does that work? Like, how do they all exist? And what about sanitation? Like that one, your mind reels in a different direction, even if like what he's trying to say is like so brilliant. Like there's so much from like a story standpoint and a storyteller standpoint that is really, really smart. And it's like, okay, that's what happens when you give the man a little money. Because Get Out was made for like $5 million.
Right.
Like he made that money for like the change in his pockets. Like it's so crazy to think about that. And then Us was like 20 million. Because obviously, when you're a success, you can have more wiggle room, more budget,
Mm-hmm.
And then Nope, and that one's pretty obvious. Like he got to spend some money there. That was like 70 million.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what's so great about when you're a success. Like you get to make money. You get to have this opportunity to be able to do these things. And he just plays with this great allegory. And some of it is not, it almost reminds me of David Lynch, where like some of it is not over the head. Some of it is to the point where you're like not going to click the dots.
Mm-hmm.
Like you may figure it out, you may not. I mean, I definitely wouldn't call him the horror master, but I mean, especially based on 3 movies. But what's so crazy about it is like he came from like the comedy world in such a way where it's like, for some people it's like, well, why are you good at horror movies? Like, what the fuck?
Right. Yeah.
But for me, like I can't help but to like think that, especially I certainly think for now times, he's very much at that level that's top of the horror game. And not to take away what anybody else does, but it is so weird to watch horror go in the direction it has because, you know, people don't get scared the way they used to. And I think a lot of it just has to do with we live in such a different time. We get exposed to so much. And, you know, trauma and horror used to have the ability to really travel parallel roads. And they still do. But now we do so much trauma exposure. You know, we talk about things in the realm of trauma, real life trauma.
Right.
At 40 years ago, nobody fucking talked about. And if you talked about it, there was something wrong with you. Like you weren't supposed to talk about it.
Right.
You know, you were not just the outlier, you were the problem.
Mm. Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. And and now like this is my mind's all over the place tonight for whatever reason. But now with Jordan Peele, because I think he said he expressed interest because now they're talking about going back and forth with, like I guess the bidding war for Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
I can't see a Jordan Peele Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know if that's his type of film, you know?
Well,
it just seems.
Well, I can't help but to look at that. And well, first of all, here we go again with the whole rights battle. You know, this almost reminds me of like The Exorcist, because it's like, yes, there has been some traction out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There has been some, obviously, money generated. Like, yes, this has become an IP. You know, it has, I think, one of the most scariest movies and most fucked up movies I ever watched in my life, which was the second one, which was Dog Will Hunt. Get a little face. Fucking chopped up.
I love it. I love it.
That shit still fucking haunts me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that shit still fucking haunts me. Get a little face. Dog Will Hunt. Fucking lighting the top of the fucking hanger and scratching it. Ah!
Oh, I gotta pull that clip now. I have to make sure I pull
Oh, you motherfucker. I get why people would want to get it, but the way horror has gone, like, yes, you can still do like a Splatterfest, but is that, I mean, do you try to make it like Aiken of the time? Do you go back to like the more, you know, documentary style? Because that's, I mean, and granted, a lot of it was like the money wasn't there, so that's the style you got. It was almost like Jaws, where it was like we did the best we could. Like, you know, the shark wasn't working, and Texas Chainsaw works for the time, especially so well because it doesn't have any, you know, it's not glitzy, it's not glamorous. And a lot of horror movies, especially back then, was just, all right, we're pointing a camera at this thing, and this is the best we're doing. This is it. And in the case of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with the myth or the story driven behind it, that it was, you know, something from an actual event, I think what perpetuated it even more and probably made it more fucked up for people. So do you try to go the horror route or do you try to go more of a thriller route? I can't think of horror in the sense of like, I mean, you could go in a number of ways if you really wanted to. And granted, they've made movies left and right, and I've had trouble keeping up with them, and they've tried making prequels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in typical horror fashion, they make them for nothing. They get a big box office opening out of them, and then they go away. They make enough money to justify the existence of another one. But how many of them are actually really good? Now, the second one, I don't know if I'd call it good. I just know it's really fucked up.
Yes.
In the case of the first one, that one plays the fucked up game too, especially considering you've never seen it. The second one's more polished, even with lack of money. But in the case of like the first one, like it really plays the documentary thing because that's the money they had to play with. And I think that's why, especially the first one works. The first one messed me up. Second one messed me up more because Chop Top is like just this figure where it's like, holy fuck, you're like my sleep paralysis demon, and somehow you're fucking real. The fuck?
Yeah. Scared the shit out of me too, but yeah, I get. Yeah. And then the third one, you're with New Line because they did that. So I mean, I don't know what the budget was for that one, but
that one's, if I'm right, the third one is with Matthew McConaughey, and Renee Zellweger.
That was the fourth one. That was the fourth one with them, the Next Generation.
Oh, okay.
In 96.
See, it's another
94, not 96.
See, that's another IP where it's like it almost feels a little bit like Hellraiser, where it's like, how many of these fucking things did you make?
Yeah, right.
How many of these things did you make, and who the fuck was watching them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me see out of curiosity. Yeah, I just kind of want to know what direction they're going to go in, because it's very much a case of, it feels, I mean, I think it could still be fun, but it feels kind of outdated.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they should just leave it, because I didn't like that the one that Netflix put out in 2022, I guess it was.
Didn't they make like two of them?
Well, they made one. They were going to make another one, but I don't think it happened yet. Probably not going to happen now. But I didn't like that one. I didn't like it. I was like, no. Couldn't do it. Could not do it.
Okay.
But it's one of the most like convoluted franchises in history, because they just go all over the place.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of horror franchises go all over the place. And it kind of sucks because, I was thinking about this today.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a friend of mine because she was supposed to go with a friend of hers to go see, I can't remember if it was like a Broovies or something, but to watch Troll 2. And she was like, should I have gone see that? And I was like, well, that's up to you. But I said, not really. That's just my 2 cents. But I told her about, but I told her about this. So let's think of it in this fashion.
Okay.
So fittingly enough, I'm going to talk about Friday the 13th, another very convoluted franchise. One that I never got.
Friday the 13th. So there we go.
Yeah. I never got that one. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre was more my speed. It was pretty obvious. I mean, right from the jump, obviously Friday the 13th was a knockoff of Halloween. I mean, even in the name, like they took a holiday and kind of slapped that together. But having said that, I don't know if you remember a movie called Jason X.
I do.
Where it takes place like, what was it, 200 years. Yeah.
Yep.
What the oh my God, is this real?
What is it?
What the fuck? No. Please see
Yeah,
their
I
screenshots.
wonder if you saw the one that I saw, or what you're seeing that I saw. Oh wait, no, it's
The
not. because
video
I'm-
game?
Of what?
There's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game from 1983.
Oh, I didn't know that. No shit.
Get the fuck out of here.
Really? What was it for? Does it say? Was it Atari or?
Wizard Video Games.
Oh, one of those.
For the Atari video game system and the Sears Video Arcade. Get the fuck out. Oh my god, this thing's real. Holy dick balls.
Texas, how do you make? That is so weird. How the hell would you do that back in 1983?
Oh my god, it was Atari. Oh my god, this is wonderful. Oh my god. I miss the 80s so much.
You don't have an Atari still, do you? Because I was going to say we could get the game and have you play it or something.
I sure as shit don't. I fucking wish I did.
Oh, no, yeah, I hear you. Because now I want to play the damn thing.
Well, apparently it doesn't have a very high rating, but yeah, this thing existed. And they have
the ET game didn't have a high rating either, but it existed. Wow.
Well, and it's weird too because, so believe it or not, the Friday the 13th game that actually came out a few years ago, that was actually really good.
Yeah, I did
more than I had expected. Yes, I was actually quite surprised. Oh my god, this thing exists!
Wow.
And you play as Leatherface.
Oh my god, dude! Could you imagine the graphics on that shit?
I saw a screen cap. It's pretty. Oh my god! So on the bottom of this thing, there is a points totaler, a points keeper,
Okay. Right?
and the points add up as you kill people.
Oh my god!
Okay, now somebody should buy the rights to make the fucking game. Oh my god, this thing is real.
They're putting out another game, I think, like Friday the 13th style from a few years ago, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, though.
The Friday the 13th game was actually pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And it didn't get the love it should have, like the Evil Dead game. The Evil Dead game is really cool. That's open world, so that one's a little. I have a feeling that one that didn't click with the ADHD set as much as it should have, because it's a little more open world than some of those yahoos like.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, who am I kidding? I'm one of those damn yahoos.
I want to get into Tar.
Yeah, I can't believe I found that. I cannot believe I found that. This is insane. This is I can't even. I can't even bend my head around. This is. Oh my god! I'm in so much shock. Like, where am I? I should sit down.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, I don't believe it. I do not, because you would have never thought in 1983 that they would have done a Texas Chainsaw Massacre video. Like,
well, it's not. I mean, I guess in its own right, it's not a total departure, and here's why. So, we had cartoons based on Rambo, a war vet with PTSD, crippling PTSD, and a murder boner that he had trouble controlling. And then you had, what was another one that really comes to mind? Well, like the first Terminator. Like, you had a lot of these IPs, that had like action figures, and it was like, wait, they're like, look at Ghostbusters. You had a cartoon and action figures for a first movie that had, a blowjob with a ghost.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mind-blowing, some of the toys we had. Like I said, it doesn't feel like a total departure. It doesn't feel totally removed to have that be a game. I guess, I mean, more than anything, my shock has to be, I guess, more than anything, just the ideal that it happened that early on. Okay, here's how I look at it. The haha.
Mm-hmm.
The game came out in 83. The second movie, which Hooper directed, came out in 86.
Mm-hmm.
We got a game before we got a sequel.
I know. That's
in
so
a time. In a time
yeah.
where you would think it would go the other way.
Oh yeah. You would think that maybe you'd be getting the game in 86. Or you'd have, or no, actually, wait. Technically, we should have had a sequel before 80 because that thing came out in 74.
Exactly. 74. Yep.
Yeah, so it's like
came out the year I was hatched. Yeah, because he had. Let's see. I'm gonna look at his screen credits.
There is gameplay footage of that Texas Chainsaw thing on YouTube. I checked it. And there's an angry video game nerd episode of it talking about it, I guess.
Well, that's not really a big shock.
Wow. But yeah, that's, I mean.
Well, especially when you look at, like, I mean, it was just, and the thing is too, if you look at the packaging, I didn't see anything on it, but it was a time before like ratings and warning labels.
Mm-hmm.
Like you didn't, you know what I mean? You didn't connect that dot. Like, yeah, that's not that wasn't a thing.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like, and I wondered like what that game was. Well, they didn't really have game ratings back then either, so.
But then again, games weren't immersive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's why. I wonder if that's why, like, the Texas Chainsaw game and the Halloween game and all that, like, didn't do well because it wasn't immersive, and maybe that's kind of what a game like that needs to be.
Let's see. Well, and back then, I mean, it was the Atari 2600. Like, I mean, a game was a game was a game. I mean, you did your best with what you had. And yes, they tried to up the stakes, but I mean, we're talking about like a 2-bit cartridge here. Like you weren't, if you went to, I mean, even if you went to like an arcade, you really weren't going to knock it out the park. Graphics just didn't exist at that level yet.
Right.
Let's see. I'm just kind of curious because I can't. It's funny how the game, because there wasn't like a tie-in. I mean, unless, you know, chainsaw sales went up and it's like, hey, do you want to sell chainsaws? And be like, hey, the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre is coming up. Did you want to? Okay, let's put it this way. Like, as ridiculous as that might sound, let's be clear about something. So you haven't seen Squid Game yet, have you?
No, I have not.
Okay. But you know the gist of Squid Game.
I get. I mean, I've heard enough to probably know, what the deal is or how that. I still don't kind of get it, but you know, but I know of it. I know about it.
Okay. So with it being kind of like Hunger Games or Battle Royale, and it's actually based around a real situation that happened apparently in Korea.
Right.
Now, keep in mind that it's basically a death game, kind of a free for all, where there's like a cash prize at the end. So Hunger Games, okay?
Right.
But the marketing jackholes will never skip a chance to make a buck.
Of course not.
They have marketed on Jack Links. They have Squid Games beef jerky.
Oh my! I mean,
yeah.
Squid Games beef. Oh my god! That just sounds
ridiculous. Okay, so his filmography is very interesting. Because it's almost like he came back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre because he could. Because he made like a bunch of movies in between, but he was replaced on one movie. And if the story is accurate, Spielberg actually came in to finish up Poltergeist.
Oh, really?
So the story goes. Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. Yeah, because he made Life Force before he made Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Really? Oh shit! I thought Life Force was 80.
Yep.
I thought Life Force was 86. But well, if it was, then yeah, he could have shot that first, and then Texas Chainsaw 2. But that's just weird. Why would you want to go from Life Force to Texas Chainsaw 2? That doesn't seem logical to me. I don't know. Strange. Very strange.
And what is this? Did he make... What is this? Can you not find this? So...
What
It looks like he made a Freddy Krueger movie that wasn't a Freddy Krueger movie.
Oh, no. He directed the first episode of Freddy's Nightmares, the TV series.
Yes, but there's also a movie here that he co-directed with Mick Garris.
Really?
The Nightmare Begins Again. Yeah, 1993.
The Nightmare Begins Again.
Yeah.
I never heard of that. I have never
on
heard
IMDb, when a technicality, the parents of the children he murdered takes matters into their own hands while high school track star, haunted by her mother's untimely death, receives her mother's amulet that unlocks her ambitions and unleashes vengeance on those who caused her pain. Okay.
And this was 93?
This is 93. And it looks like it's made of like archival footage. I gotta find this thing. It's
this is something to
Craven co-wrote it. Craven co-wrote it. Yep.
That is so fucking weird.
The shit you learn, man.
Again. Yeah, I mean, the internet is like, I mean, but again, I kind of wish I would have learned about it in 90.
Now I knew about Freddy's Nightmares. I actually liked that show.
Yeah, no, so did I. And
yeah, it was a syndicated show.
Yeah, I used to be on Saturday nights. I used to actually no, it started. I think it was on because I remember that movie, or not that movie. That show was the first time that I saw a TV spot for Halloween 4 when I was watching the pilot episode of that show. Oh, fuck. That hurt. There we go. Now I'm off my knees again.
Careful.
Oh, God, my knees.
Yeah, nothing new there, Chief.
Yeah, I don't know, I gotta get a better pad thing that I'm kneeling on, because damn, that hurts. Nightmare Begins Again. That's
yeah, I gotta see if I can stumble on that on YouTube or something.
yeah, that's got to be somewhere. I'll have to look it up too, because what is it? We'll see, because then, and yeah, if you're gonna look it up, I decided then I watched. Did you see Presence yet, or did you not?
Yes.
The Steven Soderbergh movie. Yeah, I finally watched that.
It's Soderbergh. I had to watch it.
Yeah, no, and I'll tell you what, I enjoyed that one. I thought that was, I mean, it's not like a horror film, but it was still really good.
It is, you know, it kind of lives up to its reputation of what you expect it to be, because it is kind of, it's an art house take on a horror film, being from a ghost perspective. Like, it is kind of an odd existential take, but it's not really horror in the truest sense. It's more like a family drama from the ghost perspective.
Right.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not, because I really, when I heard a lot, a lot of things that I heard about it were not so good, but I went into it and I was like, the trailer looked interesting enough, so I wanted to see, and I was really impressed with it. It really was just like, and it moved at a nice clip. It was like an hour and 24 minutes, and it was just, it didn't feel like it dragged really at any point. It was good. I thought I really liked it. Then I watched the X trilogy after that.
I still haven't seen the last one yet, but I like the first two.
Yeah, well, it's all. See, the only reason that I watched it was because it was on Max. The three of them are, and I didn't have to go digging for the discs. So I was like, you know what? I think it's about time that I sit down and I watch this. And I will say that and maybe I'm in the minority here, because I know that there's a lot of people that liked X, and I'm not saying I think X is great. I think all three of them are great. But Pearl, for me, is still above X. I mean, I think that's the top of the three for me still. But Maxine isn't as bad as I heard people saying it was. I don't think it's bad at all, honestly.
Right.
But it was good. It was definitely good.
Oh, I think I know what this is. So it looks like they took the series. I could be wrong, but it looks like they took the series or portions of the series and cut it into a feature.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah, because it looks like there was episodes of like the same name, like of an episode, I guess. And then they kind of cut it together. If I'm seeing that right. I don't know, it's pretty bizarre. It's pretty cool. You know, where it's all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, there's this thing. Like, what?
Yeah, well, that's well, I mean, that would still be something that'd be pretty neat to see. I think I would.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find more on it.
Yeah, they would have to. It's got to be somewhere online. I'm sure it would have to be. I'm definitely sure it would have to be. That's good.
It's one of those, you know, and I remember because there was that Friday the 13th series, you know, syndication, and obviously it really doesn't exist anymore because it doesn't have to.
Right.
But syndication used to have a lot of cool shows because syndication was almost like, I mean, I guess the best way for me to put it, like from my perspective, was almost like an indie comic book press, where, because, you know, it wasn't like network, and it wasn't marketed the same. And what was so great about syndication is that everybody got to see it as long as there was an affiliate. And I know there were people who were like, well, if it's not network TV, what does it matter? But also, you know, let's kind of be clear that, you know, Xena and Hercules, those were syndicated. And these series all kind of had a life of their own. And it was funny because looking back on some of these actors and series, like even actors who are big now, it's like, what was this series you were in? What was this? You know, like VIP with Pamela Anderson Lee, or Pamela Anderson, or whatever she's called now. But she did this syndicated action show for like, I think it was like 4 seasons. And it was like, what is this? And that's what was so crazy about, like, during that time, where like it was kind of like the side route, because it wasn't cable, it wasn't network, it was kind of like I said, it was like an indie press, where it was like, we've got this wild idea. Because some of them, I mean, looking back at some of them, it was like Black Scorpion, like, I mean, it was stuff that like Roger Corman was like still putting together. So you were kind of selling the rights for this stuff on the fly, kind of making, you know, kind of making the pilot, and then hoping somebody would pick this stuff up.
Right.
And it was always kind of nuts, because it was like, well, you know, is this going to be a thing or not? And, you know, some of them obviously didn't take, but, you know, there are some, and looking back at like some of these titles, I'm like, there's a part of me, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a thing. And I remember like being overseas, we would, especially in Japan, we'd only get certain things. So, you know, these titles, like Carrie-Anne Moss, she was on Australia, and she was part of like, I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was like a spin on like Mission Impossible of that time. And it was like, well, and it was funny because a lot of them were like, they were takes on like the Danger Girl comic, or like Mission Impossible, or like they were like these, you know, like Thunder Force with like Hulk Hogan, and like all these kind of like over the top, or wannabe over the top, exaggerated kind of action series. And like I said, a lot of them were like Vampirilla too, you know, where it was like independent comics, like come to life. And they were kind of cheeky and fun because they were made for like no money.
Right.
The effects budget was pretty obviously like rough.
Wasn't Highlander the series that was syndicated too?
That
right?
was syndicated. That was on for like 6-7 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them were pretty Some of them were pretty awesome, like back in the day. And they were like fun. Like they weren't great, but they were kind of fun.
Right.
And I mean, syndication still exists now when you look at like talk shows, but like, Baywatch actually started as a network show on NBC.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then it went to syndication and it was huge on syndication. There was a time where all shows became syndicated, but there were shows that, were purposely brought to syndication.
So, oh yeah, that's right. So Baywatch started on NBC, but did it go to Fox then or something? I could have sworn I think it went to
No,
Fox.
it went to, I don't recall, but the last, if I remember correctly, I mean, I think it went 2 seasons.
Right.
And then it was syndicated. And then the syndication worked out so well that it ended up having, I want to say like 3 spin-offs.
Oh yeah, there was like Baywatch Nights or something like that, or
They had like 3 weird ones.
wow, I still
Yeah, it was let's see. Yeah, I'm having a little fun here digging through some of this stuff. Well, look at it this way. When you look at syndicated shows, you've got the Star Treks.
Oh yeah. Wait, even the the original series from the 60s.
No, that was network.
Wasn't. But yeah, but like Next Generation and all that was
Yep.
Like Next Generation on was syndicated, right?
Well, so if I remember correctly, Next Gen was syndicated.
Right.
And I used to watch that on, what was it? KUTV Channel 13 on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Wow.
Yeah,
the shit Fox. I remember.
Yeah. Mine was Fox, and that was Saturdays too, I think.
Yeah, that was our Fox affiliate, even though Fox wasn't really a network yet. Like they were, because they had like Simpsons, but they were like a network.
Right.
They had that. And then they had, because UPN, because Paramount tried to start their own network, because that's how you got Charmed. And I think Voyager was on UPN. Because I want to say UPN, I don't want to say it was syndicated, but it wasn't like a major network. It was kind of like how the CW was.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Or is. Because, I mean, and it's funny because the CW had some hits. You had like Supernatural and you had Smallville and you had shows that had 10 plus seasons, but they were always considered a minor network, which was always kind of interesting. They were never at that level. They used to have press like everywhere, especially Smallville. Like Smallville in its sweet spot, like, and Arrow was another one too. And I think Arrow had like 8 seasons, but I know for sure that Next Gen, TNG, was syndicated, and that was huge. I think that blew up the syndicated market probably as much as Baywatch, and Baywatch had 11 fucking seasons.
Yeah,
for some ungodly reason.
Yeah, and for a show like that, for that to run that long, it's like, wow.
Well, and it was always weird because, I mean, you had you know, one thing I remember particularly about syndicated TV, especially at that time, was a lot of these action shows like VIP and Acapulco Heat, like,
oh yeah,
part of their big selling point was like the babes. Like,
Oh,
a
100%.
lot of the shows were like really just the same thing, but it was a product of the time where it was like Maxim magazine and FHM, where it was like the selling point wasn't the show. The selling point was like these kind of C-list. You know, they weren't Playboy and they weren't Hustler, but they were like these, you know, boy-esque wannabe men's magazines. You know, read them for the articles, but they had photo shoots in them, and that was the selling point because that's the crowd they were selling them to. And a lot of that was based on Baywatch, because I don't know about you, and I'll be honest, yes, I've watched Baywatch. I never watched for the plot.
No, it's entirely no. You don't watch that for the plot.
No,
I mean,
I never watched that for the plot.
No.
Sorry to disappoint all of you out there, but I know you're all
it's
heartbroken and shocked.
Yes, it is. It's. I mean, that is. Now I kind of want to watch Baywatching. It's you know what was a decent? I mean, because you brought up CW, now you got my mind thinking again. What was a decent show on the CW? It was on. It ran for 5 seasons. They did a version of Walker with Jared Padalecki.
Yep.
Yes. I watched that fucking thing faithfully.
Did you like it?
So you know what? Now look, it doesn't compare to the Chuck Norris show. It's a whole different animal than what Chuck did. But I like what Jared did with it. I liked that, and I liked Mitch Pileggi, and I thought, you know, it was decent. I liked it. I liked the, you know, it had a good story. It kept me interested, you know, week to week. But then after 5 seasons, they decide to cancel it. I still haven't watched the last 2 episodes because I think it ends on a cliffhanger. And if it ends on a cliffhanger, I'm going to be pissed off because they canceled it. And I'm not going to see it resolved. That's why I haven't finished the last 2 episodes yet. Do you watch it or no?
I watched a part of the first season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
I get, and I agree with you that he did what he could with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to give him a one-off, like, oh, whatever. That was very much a case of, at least my perspective, he was given an opportunity after Supernatural,
right,
to continue on the network. And I don't blame him for continuing on the network, especially, you know, in the case of both of them, both, you know, Jensen Ackles as well as Jared Padalecki. It's like, well, what do you want to do now? And in the case of Jared Padalecki, it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to do my own show. And he decided to develop Walker. Mm-hmm. And I like what they were trying to do. The reason why I had issues with it is because Chuck Norris is such a specific force. He is such a unique character, not just of the time, but he's a legend for a reason. And that show existed the way it did because of him.
Right.
Because this was a show that came on Saturdays where it was expected to be buried, and it actually lasted 7 seasons. So
right.
This was a show that, against all odds, made it through and had, viewership, a loyal viewership.
Right.
And I guess for my money, just me, Jared Padalecki is not Chuck Norris, and they didn't try to mimic what he did. So that's to their credit.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I guess ultimately for me, it didn't stick because it wasn't the same, number one. And it's not a matter of nostalgia. It's just that you're not giving me anything new based against this name. But on top of that, it's like, who was asking for this? And if you liked it and it was your thing, that's great. But like for my money, I was like, I didn't need, kind of like the remake of Kung Fu with the daughter or the woman instead. The first season is great, but it started losing me because I was like, when I started going, because in a lot of cases, the storyline kind of just reinvents itself to kind of self-perpetuate. It's a lot of the same, yep, this person did this, yep, and episodic, long form TV just doesn't work the way it used to. Like, it's amazing to think we used to watch 25 episode seasons.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think we're built for that anymore. I just don't.
No. Well, now they're dropping them down to like, I think the new normal is like 20 to 21 episodes for broadcast TV.
And even that seems long.
Streaming, and that's even, believe me, today, yes, it does. And I mean, even like on streaming, you get between 8 and 10 in most cases. At least the things that I've seen.
Well, and for my money, like, I wonder if it's now because, so I remember when I was first introduced to British TV many, many years ago. And it was, how do I put it? It was a revelation that a season was 5 episodes. They were doing that back then. Many years ago. Like Faulty Towers, which is wonderful and is brilliant, is literally 8 episodes. And
are they like half hour long or hour long or
something like that. Like, it's not a typical regular episode, at least of the time. But what was really weird was for somebody like me who just absorbed so much TV and then was introduced to like Monty Python and was introduced to, like The Saint and stuff like that, or even like The Prisoner. I was introduced to that on PBS, and that went for a fair amount of time, 3 or 4 seasons, but that only has 17 episodes. And that show is considered groundbreaking. Like, even to this day, like the social commentary is considered like second to none. And that show is well over 15 years old. And people there was a remake in 2009. It was terrible because they ended up missing the fucking point. But when I got introduced to it, I was like, I would watch it and be like, okay, I watched 10 episodes. Yeah, that was the whole series. What? Wait, what? What? Like even when I was like introduced to like The Doctor, like now, like I went back. I mean, I knew it existed, but BBC, like growing up, I didn't really have access to, only by like PBS. So it wasn't like I was really watching it a lot. I knew more of it, but then when we got to like Tenet and stuff like that, and over time I got to see like, old episodes on the internet, I was able to be like, okay, now I get it, and became a fan. But the ideal of like some of these shows being so crucial, so instrumental, having multiple seasons, but then being like 15 episodes. You're like, wait, what? And like I said, this was how they operated. And granted, you had other networks and other studios, but a lot of it was all around BBC. Now you don't really have that, even though obviously BBC still exists. But now it seems, I think, other studios and everybody else has kind of caught along and kind of clicked with the punchline, if you will, to where they go, well, just get it done. I think now they've realized that if you draw out a storyline, you're just kind of pushing stuff out, because now with so much content, you have to keep it more focused, because now everybody just, I mean, it's crazy. Like, you know, I'll go through some of the stuff on streaming and I may have heard of something, but then I go, oh, this is out. This is the thing. This is here. And as much as I enjoy watching new stuff like Severance or whatever, or discovering new stuff, the thought of trying to keep track of all of it is insane. And I think after a while, a lot of these creators are like, well, we have to make these seasons short. Like, how else are we supposed to stay in the peripherals? Or how are we supposed to stay focused? Otherwise, we're going to be in the peripherals. And that also goes, I think, with not just the enormity of the content, but like how quickly we can make things now, or they can make things now. You know, movies and TV don't look the way they used to because they don't get made the way they used to. You know, color timing used to be like something you would have to do over time. Color timing now happens with the push of a button because most projects are shot digitally. Why? Because it's cheaper and it's more efficient. And you can get a lot more done in a shooting schedule than you could otherwise. Not to mention, if you're working with VFX, it's easier to do digital than to transfer film to digital.
Right.
And in most cases, film holds a lot less time. Most film cartridges is 10 to 20 minutes.
Right.
Digital, you can shoot days. So it's very much a case of, you know, they keep just blurting out entertainment or content. But in the case of British television, like, I think they just realized early on that, you know, if you craft it well, you don't need, 22 episodes. But TV there and TV here was much different because, with BBC, it was almost like PBS. Like, you paid for that. In the case of here, it was all sponsor dollars, network dollars. So you drew out a season to make money. That's how like sweeps worked and stuff like that. That's how your sponsors came on board, your ratings. Oh, you're watching this? Okay, we'll give you money. And then slowly but surely, that's where, product tie-ins loom their ugly head. That's why now more than ever, I love the summer blockbuster season. I will always be a fan of it. I always love, what's going to be next. And I'm definitely excited for a few. But it is crazy. Crazy. Like one of the big ones I'm excited for, and I know people have passed judgment. I get it, but I am wildly excited. Wildly excited for Superman. And the take that they're going to do, because a lot of it is from some of the comic books, like All-Star Superman. Like there's a lot that reminds me of that kind of Superman. And I enjoyed some aspects of Man of Steel. but it is very much a tricky kind of. Naners is back. Naners.
Oh,
the return of Naners.
yes.
Have you been Naners today? That sounds kind of creepy.
What does that mean?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I want
Man
to.
of Steel played with a very unique take on Superman, and not as obviously as hopeful. It did play with him as like this, what he is. He's kind of like an intergalactic illegal alien.
Mm-hmm.
But
plus, he's got his dog. You gotta love that.
He's what?
He's got his dog.
He's got crypto such a good boy. He's such a best boy. He's such a best boy. Crypto's such a best boy. Which is funny because in the comic book, Crypto is actually a golden retriever.
Oh, really?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But that's okay. I like this Crypto. He's adorable. But the thought process of these things, because it's not just the movie, like everything leading up to it is where a lot of the money changes hands. And yes, the movie itself, it's important, but it's very much indicative of what a blockbuster is now. They have, Superman cookies from Keebler. Hugo Boss, of all places, has a cologne tie-in. Like they have all these things, to kind of buy and push onto the movie. Like they have Carl's Jr.'s burgers and they have Dairy Queen and all these things to kind of market, to kind of play in. And that's because these companies will give Warner Brothers the money. Like that's where it all kind of comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's like, because I don't know about you, and they don't really do it the way they used to, but remember when they used to make like those really shitty, super sweet cereals?
Mm-hmm.
There was a movie coming out, like they all had these weird kind of, like the pieces were like super weird looking. They were supposed to be like, in the case of Batman, it was supposed to be a bat symbol, but there were these weird corn syrup or corn puff cereals with so much sugar and corn sweetener, if you will, and just they were so bad for us, and we were all hopped up on sugar all the time. Now it's just caffeine instead of sugar.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was crazy to think. It was like, what?
Yeah, damn. Now I wish I could go back and just, oh my gosh, some of that cereal. Oh, I used to love it. I used to love it so much.
Stuff is so bad for us, though. I mean, not like we're a healthy society these days. Don't get me wrong.
No, definitely not. But I mean, it's. But it's really not. Even though I try to be, but you just there's too much there. That you can't ignore it sometimes, especially,
Too much crap.
Oh, yeah, a lot of crap, but some of it is so good. Oh, so good.
Well, and it's always been fun to me. Like as a kid, like I used to see that stuff, for like summer movies, like the action figures, all the tie-in crap, and just be so excited. And then you get older, and not to feel disconnected, but you start to kind of learn that it is kind of just crap, and not necessarily in a bad way, but like the whole point is to sell the movie, and it's always disconjointed. And the reason is this, because I am one of those types, and I believe we're kindred spirits on this one, is that some of this stuff is cool. Like when you look at like movies that become cult classics and they make merch and pop figures, and you're like, wow, like I never thought they would do that. Like that's so cool, and yada yada yada. But then the movie still has to be the movie. I still think it is very important that that plays the biggest piece in its success and why we enjoy it. And I know deep down, people don't necessarily, feel that. Like, part of this product stuff is the hype machine. And it's to get people stoked, and it works. I mean, it's worked for years. No different now.
No,
Like
I've been burned. I've been burned, and I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah, it's that machine at work, definitely.
Yeah.
But I also know that it is very much a case of like you have to kind of take it for what it is. When you're younger, it's all just you're just being jaded. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah. But
nowadays it's very much a case of just, especially when, and it's funny because marketing movies, especially in the past 50 years, so different. But
yeah,
it's now, and it's like all marketing, where I think more than ever, it's so shameless. Like NBA games. Hey, be careful with your gambling habits. Sponsored to you by FanDuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, here's a vegan burger which should be better for your health. Sponsored to you by Wendy's. Like,
there you go.
Like, perfect example, Poppy or Poopy, whatever it's called. This brand, okay, is supposed to be, probiotic soda, not necessarily healthy, but healthier. They're getting bought by Coke.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh no shit.
Yeah. So
once
again,
does it have a lot of sugar in it, or is it just like? Because I've heard of it, I've never actually had it. Like, is it?
It's got less sugar.
Like,
It's got probiotics, so it's got what you want from soda, makes you poop. That's the draw. That's the biggie there.
Right.
And ultimately for me, I'm very much one of those, I see it for what it is, especially when, if marketing can present a problem, it'll present a solution at the same time.
Right.
Like if they were to bring back the death penalty and boil people in oil, it'd be sponsored by Crisco.
Yeah, that'd be
like, seriously. I mean,
yeah, no, I like that. That's
if they were to burn people at the stake, it'd be sponsored by, Brixford charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
If they were to sponsor like live firing squads, be sponsored to you by Smith and Wesson. It's true though. I mean, it's I'm waiting for like live colonoscopy sponsored by Roto-Rooter.
Because that's, I mean, I commend you for being able to do that, because I'm telling you, man.
Colonoscopy?
Yeah, I don't know, like,
they're important.
Yeah, but
hey, look at it this way: until somebody puts a camera down your ass, you don't know what kind of shit's in your asshole.
But wait a minute, but the shit that's coming out of it, I guess there could be other shit that we don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's all just basic. I mean, if you break it down, like when you look at like what's in our food and our drink, and in a lot of the things that we imbibe, on a basic level, biological level, we weren't built to pass a lot of this stuff. That's where a lot of this stuff kind of comes into play. And it is important. And the thing is too, is they put you out for it. You're not up.
Right.
I mean, unless you're a sadist and it's like, bring it on.
No, I'm not. Don't bring it on. I don't want to.
It's a very structured procedure. And I know also probably now more than ever, it is, I mean, now they're more routine than ever. Like now they're like, if you're 45, you should start getting them.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'll probably get one either this year or next year. I know. It's just par for the course. It is. God, I hate to say this.
Mm-hmm.
It is par for the course more now to screen for cancer, knowing how likely it is and getting treated and living with it than it is to prevent it. When there was a time, it was more focused to prevent it. Now it's the other way. But that's where we also now get all of those, those pills, all those medications you hear about, like, the take one pill so you don't have over itchy knee syndrome. Oh, and by the way, side effects may be bleeding from the asshole, bleeding from the pee hole, bleeding from your eye holes, growing dragon wings, all of a sudden feeling the need to fuck your lamp, all of a sudden feeling the need to be a Jacksonville Jaguars fan while you shit simultaneously from your fingernails. Like all these weird fucking symptoms and shit that go sideways with your body so your knee doesn't fucking itch. Like, how crazy is it? We've reached the point where it's like, what was one of them? And don't get me wrong, like living with some of these things, but that's the trick. Like, we have so many things now, issues, like fucking gluten allergies. I'm like, how many fucking biscuits did I eat for all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I can't handle sourdough. It might kill me. Like, fuck you, dude. Don't ruin it for the rest of us. Well, now we have gluten-free bread. Great. Next thing you know, we're going to have vagina-free pussies.
I mean, that's, well.
Great.
Could be something, I mean, wouldn't be that, that's, wow. I'm perplexed, but that is. Wow.
But it makes you kind of realize that we've started to come into a culture where we try to prim things up, we try to make things so safe, and then the cruel reality of life sets in, and it's like, nobody's safe. Nobody ever will be safe. People should be constantly reminded how safe they're not. And I know for a lot of people, it's like, no, don't say that. Like my mom says that, I'm the best and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you're not. You're not. You suck. And people should have probably told you that you fucking sucked in a way that should have made you realize that you fucking sucked. You know why? Because it was good for you. It made you understand that you needed to change something about yourself and improve, and not be a person or a child that was like, but they said, but they said I could, no, they were wrong. They didn't want to hurt your fucking feelings. They didn't want to temper you and make you realize that you needed to learn things about yourself to improve, to ensure that you are better for it. What they did is they coddled you and they protected you from life's issues. That's why you have so many people now who get fucking sand cooch hurt on the inner tubes. And that's why you have a lot of people who translate that to life and are terrible to people on the outside world, because it's like, well, if I could do that out there, it's not an issue. And it's like, no, It doesn't work like that, especially considering there are a lot of people in the world who are fucking crazy.
Yes, there are.
And not the cool kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's astounding. And that's why it's one of those like, and thank you for being at my TED Talk. But I think it all kind of plays into movies and summer blockbusters, because when people are coddled and given so much, that's all they're ever going to expect. And I think that translates to entertainment. I think that's why streaming services are so out of whack. And what doesn't help is that they can't stop. It is weird hearing that a product that's going to go on for 15 years won't generate a profit maybe until 15 years later. And it's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Are you kidding? You're telling, it's one of those that you're telling me, well, and like in the case, I remember when like Disney Plus dropped and it was right in the middle of, COVID. So a lot of people needed that. It was very much like, oh God, like, it came at such a time of uncertainty. People kind of needed it. But truth be told, like they had a shit ton of subscribers right out the gate and a lot of content.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear like, well, we intend to have a profit by 30/30, and it's like, what? Now, a lot of these shows and movies and content, they have other tie-ins, once again, action figures and all that stuff. So they're making money elsewhere off these things.
Mm-hmm.
But I still have that like, okay, once again, it's the product has to stand by itself. Like you can push all this shit down people's throat all you want, but are you really telling me? Are you really pushing that you're gonna have something going for 10, 15 years and maybe projected, we'll go with that. They project that it will go up to that point where then you'll get a profit. And it's like, sure. And that doesn't even seem feasible because perfect example. Okay, so Andor. I love Andor. I think it's fucking amazing. I think it is literally made for Star Wars fans of our age. Like it is crazy to think that is like the best Star Wars in a long time, and it doesn't play the kid role Star Wars. It's Star Wars for people who get colonoscopies.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Like that's part of at least my enjoyment, I guess you could say. But that series, 2 seasons, okay?
Right.
I don't even think we're talking 20 episodes total, okay? Apparently the final price tag was $650 million.
Wow.
That's almost maddening. And there's a part of that too where it's a little bit like, wow. Like you have to stand in awe. Because like if you were in a room with $650 million in cash, even in like hundreds, you're like, like just to hear that as a number, you can't, I mean, most people can't bend their head around what that would look like. But
right,
that kind of money would change lives of like so many people, and they put it in a TV show. That's what the market continues to bear. Apparently, because once again, streaming show, it'll make a profit at some point, or so we're told, because they claim to have the information that says one thing, and then the algorithm tells them what's working or not. But when you really look at streaming, at least what we're told, the numbers are not like Nielsen numbers, like television numbers. Those numbers actually track, at least they did, like an actual share, like who's really watching what. This is like trust us. And a lot of that is because there's so much content. And if you want to continue making certain things in a certain way, you have to be on the ball. So yeah, you're going to get a lot of streams for certain things, but to kind of quantify that still once again bends the head, because everybody has a streaming service. And remember, there are apps where you can literally make your own streaming service. Like if you make your own videos and you actually want to stream on like on any type of service, I guess like Amazon, Roku, what have you, you can do that from your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Isn't that insane to think about, that you can literally have a TV channel?
Yeah.
I mean, I know YouTube is kind of that, but it's like on a TV set. And it makes me nostalgic for like, yeah, we didn't have a remote control, and I was the youngest kid like 40 years ago, so I was a remote control, and I used to have to walk up and go and turn the fucking knob.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to have a Rabbit and Red TV, like on the website, and it was.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I got it through Strim. Strim was the service I used, and yeah, I ran. I eventually got nabbed for third-party content that I didn't own, because I started getting copies of the Halloweens and the Friday the 13th and other movies, and started running them.
Whoops!
Like having my own like on Halloween of I don't know, like the 1 year I had it around Halloween, so I ran Halloween 6 for 24 hours in a row. That was like my on Halloween. That was like how TBS runs A Christmas Story for 24 hours. I ran
Halloween. There we go.
Yep. And you
That's
better
pretty
bet
cool.
I watched it for almost the entire 24 hours, dude.
That's awesome.
I was probably the only one, but you know what? It was the coolest fucking thing to just like schedule something and like go on the website on my TV, and then all of a sudden, like on the web browser, and you just see it on there, and it's like, I'm showing this right now.
Isn't that a kind of a weird feeling, though? I mean, just to kind of look at it from like a basic standpoint, like, you're doing this, but like, I can't help but to like, and not nostalgia and like, oh, I missed this, but it's like where technology has taken us in such a short time. And it's like, I mean, at least for me, like it's flabbergasting, where it's like, oh shit, like, you can do this from like your phone. I mean, even what we do, or like what I do, or many of us do via podcasting from like your cell phone, like radio used to be, I mean, I remember when working for Radio Free Hawaii many moons ago, where it was considered like sacred, because radio controlled the airwaves in such a way where it was like, what do you mean? Like video, like what do you mean video? Like, or not video, but what do you mean radio in like somebody's phone? Like, no, we're radio. Like, the power of that, and obviously in its own way, whatever form that takes, still has a great deal behind it. But to be able to just say, I'm gonna record this with a device in my pocket, and just be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that, and people be like, are you fucking nuts? Yeah, the idea of connecting that dot, like, no, that's one of those that's like, that's not a thing. And it's like, yeah, actually it is a thing. I think it just kind of puts into perspective that when you have so much accessibility with something, people don't if you hand it so much over, you're not going to really appreciate it in the truest way. And I think part of the issue that goes kind of with that is just being able to just have it.
Yeah.
You know, so much. I mean, and even when you look at it from like, if you can't get it this way, you can get it this way. And if you can't do this, then you get this. And it's so trippy to just to kind of get so much or get your hands on so much and in a way almost not pay for it. I mean, you kind of do, but when you think about like, I mean, let's put it this way. If you have a phone and for whatever reason you don't have service, you can use the Wi-Fi in the place and you can still make a phone call that way. And granted, you may not want to spend all day in a Starbucks. Well, some people do, but you can still do a lot with just that.
Right. Yeah, you could.
Yeah. It's kind of fucking bananas when you stop and connect that dot. But, and it's, I mean, just the ideal of being able to record something that's relatable to radio, but you know, podcasts or stream or what we're doing now with a phone. And like, I love thinking about like the old recording station of Rabbit and Red Radio, not Rabbit and Red Radio, Radio Free Hawaii. That's the one. Mm-hmm. And thinking of like that as like a piece of home, because I obviously spent a lot of time there. Oh, yeah. And I enjoyed it very much. And I remember wanting to make that my world. Mm-hmm. So to kind of fast forward and look at where we've come to and why we're now kind of at this point where, you know, it's weird how you almost don't have excuses, but then you do. Like we all feel so busy, but it's like, well, I can't record a podcast. Got a cell phone? There you go.
Yeah, right.
I don't have this. Well, no, you can get that. Well, I don't have this. Well, you can get that too. Well, I don't have this. Well, you can get that too. So everything is there and it's all kind of usable.
Right.
So the thought that you can't get it doesn't really equate. You can only really use that so much, I guess you could say, as a as an excuse that only holds so much. You know what I mean?
Right. Mm-hmm.
It only holds so much water. Doesn't really hold to a truth where it's like, oh yeah, you have to. No, that's not the case. But it also feels kind of overwhelming because even like what we do, and I know I feel that sometimes, where it's like, you know, and it's funny saying this in the middle of a show, but it's like, who the fuck's listening to this? And I think you just have to find. I know, right? I'm so meta. You have to just find your own enjoyment with a lot of this stuff, and it's not to deter even us doing it, but I think for a lot of people, it has to, like, the sweet spot for it has to be within the satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could pull your hair out going, well, nobody's going to listen to it. And it's like, yeah, obviously, but how much does somebody want to do that? How much does somebody want to, like, just pull their hair out for that? Well, nobody.
No, I mean, you got to just do it and hope that at some point somebody clicks onto it while it's live or afterward, you know, and just get, you know, listens or watches and gets something from it. That's the hope. I mean, you know.
I mean, and I think that also kind of goes hand in hand with doing it to love it. Like, you hope someone's listening, but there's no guarantee. And that's why I think I reached the point, because I, like many people, like, okay, I'm gonna buy this and I'm gonna use that and I'm gonna buy this, and you kind of seduce yourself into like, if I get all this equipment, then that'll all be hunky dory, and I'll be able to do this. But you still gotta have the drive and the want. But also on top of that, you have to be kind of in a space to know that it all centers around you. Like back in the day when like Jordan came out with his shoes, and you very much, they never, I don't know if they really ever came out and said that the shoes made you play basketball better, but the marketing guys knew how to pull it out of their ass because people believe that shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They really, really did, and it worked like a fucking champ.
Yeah.
And for me personally, like I was one of those types. Like at one point, my parents were in a position to buy me that stuff, and at one point they weren't. But I very much was like, yeah, that's cool. But it goes back to, you can have all this great, badass equipment. It means nothing. You're not going to be better. You're not going to be better for it just because the price tag convinced you that it's going to. Getting the technology is nice. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
Technology is wonderful, but it doesn't promise you anything. And I think I dealt with that for a long time, where it's supposed to be this, it's supposed to be that. And I just know that, I guess the way I see it, or like how I'd like my voice to be, is just raw in intent. Like, this is me. And it doesn't have to be anything it's not, because there's a lot of streamers and podcasters. And I mean, yes, you kind of have to play to an audience and be a character, if you will. But I also think, it's all kind of bullshit. Like I appreciate like someone like Bill Burr, because talk about somebody who talks off the top of their head and right out of their ass. Talk about say whatever you're gonna fucking say that is at the back of your mind, whatever that may look like. And I love that because one, not only do a lot of people just not do that, they don't want to do that. People don't feel the need for that anymore. Because everybody's too worried about what they say, and everybody's too worried about this and all that. And yes, as being an established, successful comedian, it's still a bit. That's pretty obvious. However, who he is and what the bit is are pretty closely aligned. Which for me in many ways is also like obviously my favorite comedian, George Carlin, where, say what you will about the man as opposed to the comedian, he was easily, at least from my thoughts and perspective, easily one of the smartest people alive. And it was crazy to think how what he did as comedy was almost things we shouldn't be laughing at. Like just the human condition and the human behavior that we engage in such a way that is almost extreme to be unbearable. And somehow, some way, he found the way to have us laugh at it and also have that cold shiver down our spine to go, oh shit. Damn. Like, that son of a bitch is right. And I fucking wish he wasn't. But here we are, folks. Like, he's right. And I think that says a lot about being that smart as a comic. Because Bill Burr does the same thing. Now, as much as I love Bill Burr, and I got to see him perform in Salt Lake, and he was fucking amazing. I never got to see George, breaks my heart. Obviously, Bill Burr is not George Carlin.
Right.
But Bill Burr's two greatest comedy influences, no big surprise, is George Carlin and Richard Pryor.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow.
That's no shock. Mine, if I had to pick, and it's difficult because I can appreciate all forms of comedy. It doesn't necessarily have to be, because I think some people get like super judgmental about different types of comedy. And it's like, oh, well, they don't have to swear, but I fucking do. And that's all fine. But I think my mother used to say that swearing means that you haven't thought anything better or smarter to say. This coming from a woman who used to fucking swear like crazy. But if you met her kids, you'd fucking understand. But at least one of them. Yeah, she had 2 girls and a boy, so take your pick which one. Anyway, but I can find enjoyment in all forms of comedy because comedy is the great revealer. I think comedy is the great truth about us. Like, if you can't laugh at it, how are you supposed to survive it? And no, not everything is out and out funny, and not everything is funny in the moment. But I think comedy, I think humor is how we temper ourselves, is how we figure out how to be stronger from certain things in ways that we don't think we can. Like, I mean, and don't get me wrong, sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it's not like you can just laugh it off that second. But I think to confront something is part of how you deal, and part of how you deal is part of how you laugh at it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, to be able to laugh at something is to be able to kind of take the piss out of why it has a hold on you. That's why even jokes that are considered like off color, or jokes that are considered not, you know, like this is offensive, that's offensive, and it's like,
right.
But everybody takes in, well, one, nobody has a sign that has their triggers all over it. That's not how it works. But I think more importantly, you have to kind of let people know. I think it's very important to kind of let people know that, you know, or make people understand, I should say, that comedy is meant to be a safe space. That's why comedy clubs exist. That's why people go to places to laugh at this stuff and then leave. They don't go right off the bat and go, well, I have to do this stuff. I have to do this there, and yada, yada, yada. Like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? It's so weird. That's why I'm all for when comedians have people lock up their phones. And it's not just that. It's also like, you know, if you're testing material, you don't want it to hit the internet and then like the joke gets stolen, or it kind of takes the piss out of the joke if somebody goes sees it the next night. But that's why comedy clubs are so great. Like, that's part of the sacredness of a comedy club. That's why you're supposed to go there and laugh. And you're supposed to go there and laugh at something that you wouldn't normally laugh at.
Right.
You know, like one of George Carlin's great jokes is, you know, he had a dog named Tippy who ran out in the middle of the road and committed suicide. He goes, that's what I saw. The dog ran out and got run over. And he goes, well, you know, the fact that the dog died, we don't say that he committed suicide. We say that the dog put himself to sleep. Exactly.
That's great. I love it.
You know, one of my favorite jokes of his, and I'll say it on here because I don't give a shit. One of my favorite jokes of his, and once again, it's where you go to laugh at this stuff. And that's why, because like back in the day, like the idea of like a comedy special, like it was treading new ground, but you also had to kind of realize you were bringing some of these comics that use cunt like they were using the word shit, and people use obviously the word shit more than they use the word cunt.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my favorite jokes from him was, "Hey, here's the way I see it. You show me a tropical fruit, and I'll show you a cocksucker from Guatemala."
That's great.
Exactly.
Tropical.
Exactly.
God.
You show me a tropical fruit, and I'll show you a cocksucker from Guatemala. One of my favorites, and he used to start, even after 50 years in comedy, he used to start so many shows and specials with, you know what people don't talk about in public anymore? Pussy farts.
Oh my God, that's so great.
And here's the last one for you. This one I love. So on a weather vane, you know how they have the chicken or the cock?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know why it's a rooster or a cock?
Why is that?
Because if it was a cunt, the wind would blow right through it.
Oh Jesus! Oh my God, that's
exactly. But then,
oh my God, that's
but
great.
then he would also have jokes like, "I'm going to invent a light bulb that only shines light on things worth looking at."
I like that one.
I'm going to create a roach spray that doesn't kill the roaches, but it fills them with self-doubt as to whether or not they're in the right house.
That's a good one too.
You never, or things you never see. You never see a Rolls Royce with a bumper sticker that says "shit happens." You never see a mom and pop dildo shop.
Oh God, he
But
really was.
that was the brilliance. Like he could say some of the dirtiest, foulest things, and then turn right around, and then just deconstruct. Like one of my favorite ones, of course, was, how is it that you drive on the parkway and park on the driveway?
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't you park on the parkway and drive on the driveway?
Driveway, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Be careful not to prick your finger, but make sure when you're in public, don't finger your prick. Yeah, things like that.
Oh shit! See, that's just even. It's just like comedy is so different. I don't know. It just seems different now, but that is like just.
There's too much spotlight on what everybody does, and it's so picked apart. And even the sweet jokes get pulled apart. Like one of my favorite sweeter jokes of his is, he's going to create a diet salad dressing called 500 Islands.
Mm-hmm.
That's
good. See,
yeah, things and that's the thing. And here's a joke of his, and it's a bit rough, but you have to sit there and go, okay, got it, even if you don't laugh at it,
right?
And maybe nor should you, but so. He used to catch heat, and this was before social media, but he used to catch heat for the shit he would do. And he goes, people said, you can't joke about anything. He goes, that's ridiculous. He goes, it's all about the exaggeration. He goes, certain acts of themselves in the real world are not funny, but it's a matter of how you translate it and you exaggerate it. He goes, like rape. Rape's not funny. And he goes, that's not true. He goes, rape can be funny. He goes, rape in the real world is a horrible, terrible act. He goes, but I can make rape funny. Ready? He goes, imagine Elmer Fudd raping Porky Pig.
Oh my god.
And yeah, that's pretty rough, but at the same time, you're like,
oh my god, I can't. I just it's I'm not.
And he
It's
goes,
weird because I'm forming a picture in my head.
Well, and the best part of the joke is he goes, well, yeah, of course Elmer was going to rape him. I mean, the pig's named Porky, isn't he? Yeah, there's that.
Oh my god.
But he's absolutely right on all points, even if you don't laugh at it. And even for me, that joke's a bit rough. And like I said, I love George. I adore George. I always will. But even I'm like,
I've never heard anything like that before. It's holy shit.
Yep.
Wow.
My favorite joke of his, and I think it definitely translates to these days.
Mm-hmm.
And it is literally one of those things where that's how smart the man was and will always be. Mm-hmm. He goes, don't you find it mildly ironic that most people who are against abortion are people you wouldn't want to fuck in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
That's what made George so great.
And it's like it's just, and his delivery, and like even the way you deliver it, you've got it down to a science almost. Like just to be able to do it yourself like that.
I have watched. I have to say, I have watched so much footage of that man.
Mm-hmm.
I have watched. I mean, when I stop and think about it,
mm-hmm.
I have easily watched. I mean, I will say this to my ex-wife's credit, because like she really didn't care. She did not care for his. She didn't get why I loved him. She was really not a fan of him. My kids, they knew and they still laugh. Like when I mention him, they're like, "We know, Dad." But what was so funny is when we were still married, she actually bought me the DVD collection.
Oh, did you?
Which was called All My Stuff, which was all his HBO specials, and then he had. I mean, the man had a lot of albums and stuff like that. But yeah, I've watched and listened to a lot of George Carlin.
Yeah, and I mean, he really. I mean, it seems like he's like, just all of his stuff just sticks with you.
Well, he was a comedian that, there's been topical comedians for years.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that made George, because when George first became a comedian, he was not the comedian people thought him to be like when you think of him now. He very much was like trying to be. He was a showbiz comedian of the 60s. He was not at that point yet. And then somewhere down the line, I'm not sure where, but somewhere down the line, he changed course and he became more topical. And I think a lot of it became definitely of the time. Obviously drug related on his part.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it, I think, was also fueled by seeing what happened or what was happening at the time with Vietnam. And the way the country was changing. And part of that wasn't just the fact that it was changing. It was just, we were starting to see things we didn't see before in a way we hadn't seen them. Because if you wanted to see World War II, you had newsreels that were attached to movies. You didn't see it really live on TV. Well, fast forward to the Vietnam War, and you could turn on your nightly news. And then somewhere down the line, you could watch Desert Storm on pay-per-view.
Yeah, I
which,
mean,
which when you think about it, is insane.
yeah, bro. I mean,
And now you can watch that shit on your phone. And not only can you watch it on your phone will tell you with a reminder set, like if you CNN, Crackhead News Network, or Fox
Right.
Lunatic Nation, those fuckheads,
Mhm.
both of them. They're two separate sides of the same damn problem as far as I'm fucking concerned.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
There'll be a reminder that goes off that tells you
Mm-hmm.
when hey, war's happening. Tune in now.
Yeah, that's. Mm-hmm.
Tune in now for War, sponsored to you by this cover of "Give Peace a Chance" by Taylor Swift.
Mm-hmm. That's
how the market. That's how they get you.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They really do.
Ooh, excuse me. Man, I'm getting old.
It's I'll tell you, it's yeah. I hear you.
Have we reached that point?
I mean, we may have. We definitely have some stuff that we can save for next week. I mean, I think we'll. And plus, there's going to be, because I am going to try to sit down and seek out those other. I need to see I need to see 4, 5, and 6 at this point. I think.
I think it is worth a view.
Yeah.
I think it's very much it's worth a look.
And I still want to watch John Wick 3 and 4, because I was gonna do that for this week, but I got too wrapped up in X, Pearl, and Maxine.
They're good ones.
That was my today's Thursday, so that was Tuesday. Tuesday I watched X, and yesterday I watched Pearl and Maxine. Not back to back, but close enough, and wow. But Maxine is still good. I don't understand why it got the hate that it got, because it was decent.
One movie, so real quick, and I enjoyed it. I actually want to watch it again, because I think I was a little hazy last night, a little sleepy. But I watched the movie, and I let you know about it, called Haunt.
Yeah, you were talking about that. So how? Well, I mean, was it okay? Like, what was the?
So it was basically a take on a haunted house. Like they all went to this haunted house, and it was like, hey, as a lot of these do, they play into being, not everything as it seems. What made this one different for me is a lot of the scares and stuff play with your head. There are a lot of parts, especially in the beginning, and that's part of the draw, is did you see what you think you saw? And I like that there's a little rope-a-dope of where you think it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not all that stuff plays the way you might think or hope it's going to go, but it does play pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it. It was they wrote and directed this, and they also wrote and directed Heretic, but they were the writing duo that was behind A Quiet Place. Yeah.
And
Heretic I enjoy, yes.
Yeah, you said that was good. I want to see that one too, because I'm starting to really after watching Death of a Unicorn, it's making me rethink my opinion about A24. So, I mean, I'm like all for A24 stuff now because I mean, Hereditary I still don't get, but
Hereditary, that fucking movie.
I just never I don't know. That made me hate A24, and then I never saw Midsummer because Hereditary was just ugh. So I'm like, Midsummer's got to be ugh.
Oh, Midsummer really messes with your head.
Right.
Because if you think there's a shit ton of allegory in Hereditary, oh yeah, Midsummer, and I think what messes with I think what's more fucked up with Midsummer that messes with your head is that Hereditary you expect to be. You expect Hereditary to be very like heavy.
Right.
You look at it and you go, okay, this is going to be a lot.
Mhm.
And then you look at Midsummer. And it's beautifully photographed. It's very bright and vibrant. And it really pops off the screen. And then they get into what's really happening. Holy fuck. I was not fucking prepared.
So, is it better than Hereditary then, or is it just a mind fuck of a movie that you just need to
all of the
see
above?
That
I think. How do I put it? I think it's a mind fuck of a movie. I think it's a little bit better than Hereditary, and I hate saying that because Hereditary's got Toni Collette and Gabriel Byrne in it, who are two fantastic actors who people know or at least know of, and I still don't think they get their flowers.
No, definitely.
In the case of Midsummer, Florence Pugh anchors that movie in such a way where you have to get that right or none of it works. And that's what's always tricky.
Theatrical.
Huh?
Director's cut or theatrical? Because director's cut is like longer by like a lot.
I've never seen the director's cut. I've only seen the theatrical.
Okay. And that was still well. Then maybe I'll start with the theatrical and see how that. Because the director's cut is like almost 3 hours. I think.
Well, the theatrical is not exactly short either.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's the thing.
They're both pretty bananas.
I'm curious now.
Midsummer, I prefer by an inch. And a lot of that is because it's photographed in such a way, like it plays like this very unique menagerie. And the village they're in is wow, like it is a fucking trip. And both movies, there are many moments of, you might turn to the person next to you and you both go, the fuck are we watching? So
I did that with Hereditary.
I watched Hereditary at home with who I was seeing at the time. And that movie messed me up so much because of just like, I mean, from just the case of the images, like what the like, what am I seeing?
Mm-hmm.
To the point where like I had to go to bed. And this was like a Sunday at like 1 p.m. And I remember it so directly because the movie was just like visually, I mean, just and thematically as well. Like I hadn't seen anything like that. And then when you get to the end, you're like, oh my God. Like it's one of those movies that I revel in, but it's like Requiem for a Dream. It's like I can watch that once a decade and I'm fucking good. After that, we're going to fucking Barney. Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna try to watch Midsummer for next week too. Oh my God, that's.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Oh, I think I have to. Oh man, and tomorrow being Friday the 13th, I will end up watching some of those, I'm sure. So, there's a few that I'll just because Pluto has an all-day marathon tomorrow, I think. So, instead of going disc hunting, I'll watch a few on there maybe during the day.
I might watch one. Probably the first one.
Yeah, that is. Would you say that's probably the one you've seen the most, or?
Yeah, like I've seen some of the other ones sporadically here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, like I said, truth be told, the franchise never really did it for me. Now,
right,
the first one reeks of, a carbon copy or a photocopy, if you will, of the, Halloween. But no big shock, they were not the first and only ones to do that.
Right.
So, yeah, I'll probably watch one of them tomorrow. We could do a Midsummer episode.
We should.
Because I don't mind watching it again. I mean, I think I'm due for a viewing, and I can handle one.
Oh, really? Yeah, it is one of those movies. Yeah, I'll definitely watch that then because
it's impeccably crafted. Like I said, it is a damn fine piece of cinema, and that's the best way to put it. But it is a lot to take in. Once again, it's got a lot of allegory and foreshadowing that's very powerful, but there is a lot of scenes where you're like, the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, well, I said that with Hereditary too. So I guess, I owe it to myself maybe to just sit down and take it. I mean, I like Florence Pugh. I think she's good with stuff. So
right.
That's and I'm sure she's good in that one. So yeah, I'm curious. I'm gonna watch that one too. I have to. Wow. I definitely think I have to. And we will discuss it, and then
I like it.
I already have a feeling that it's going to be a fun one.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm curious here, but guess what? I don't have the outro on this thing because it's just not here. I'll have it for next week, so I guess we'll just clap because that's all I have.
Bye.
I think I'll hit end.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah. There we go.
Hey!
Let's see if I can get it.